This is refusing to resign. And he's out with a new book, Holding the Line, about his tumultuous, in many ways, unprecedented tenure. This is his first interview. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I read the book over the weekend. It's pretty stunning stuff. You paint a picture of President Trump and his allies pressuring you
Here we
to
go. Good
protect
evening,
his
folks.
friends and prosecute his enemies. Had you ever seen anything like that before? How did it play out?
I had never seen anything like that before, and I was a junior prosecutor in the Southern District in the early 90s, and never seen anything like that. People who had been in the office for 40 years never saw anything like that. It was unprecedented and scary.
Let's talk about some of the specifics. So you talk about an effort by the president's allies in the Justice.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and preface this for you since folks are joining into the fray. And I see Gambit in the audience. Gambit is asking, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Are you better off now or better off 4 years ago? Well, probably economically 4 years ago. So there is the answer to your question, being candid and being open and honest. This is a top former federal prosecutor out of New York. I understand my audience may not have a lot of tolerance for this individual, but I make no mistake about it. I try to be open-minded as possible on these programs. That doesn't mean that a lot of the individuals who view me or converse with me are equally as open-minded. So I understand when I'm presenting individuals that may or may not be critical of the former president, Trump. A lot of folks are not interested in hearing that, or they automatically retreat to their corners. But nevertheless, this is new information. I'm going to present it to you, and we will be talking about this. Tonight's subjects, by the way, are two-part. This is a perfecta, a two-part program. One is going to be the DOJ, the Department of Justice. January 6th is back in the news. Remember when that case had a recess earlier this summer? They stated that it would be back in September. Well, the Department of Justice has just issued over 30 subpoenas in regards to members of Trump's inner camp. Folks have had cell phones seized, and a lot of lower members of the Trump campaign are being subpoenaed. They want to know what was happening leading up to January 6th. So we've been talking a lot about Merrick, talking a lot about that entire issue with the documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. But this is the other case. Remember, President Trump has a lot of cases orbiting around him. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, is those subpoenas. But of course, as always, when you come in the box, we never know where this might go, because this is a open forum. We do not block, censor, or ban comments. And the fact that you disagree with the host means absolutely nothing. You will always get to state your point here. You'll get plenty of time to do so. Once again, if you don't get banned by TikTok, your humble correspondent, yours truly, will not do it. I believe in free speech, and we're going to preserve that on this show. I want you to hear this individual. So it's about 2 minutes or so. He is a top federal prosecutor out of New York City. Now, I understand with the Biden administration, folks are suggesting that the liberals are weaponizing the DOJ and the FBI. I got a lot of my MAGA folks, my beloved MAGA audience, that state they don't even trust the FBI because they have been so politicized and weaponized by the liberals. Well, we're going to be talking about that. By the way, tap your screen, get your board to 5,000 likes. Let's start out right there. Get me some MAGA in here. And here goes.
Department to get you to indict Greg Craig, who was a Democrat who had worked for President Obama. Talk about what happened.
We were investigating Greg Craig and were pushed by the Justice Department to indict Greg Craig, a Democrat, before the midterm elections. The Justice Department told us, hey, you had just indicted two allies of the president, Chris Collins, who's a Republican congressman from upstate New York, and Michael Cohen, who's the president's lawyer and fixer. And it's time for you guys to even things out and indict a Democrat before the midterm election.
You talk about a Justice Department official, Edward O'Callaghan. He says this is categorically false.
Well, it absolutely happened. My deputy was on the phone with him when he was told we've got to even things out. He immediately came into my office, told me about the conversation, my jaw dropped. And I immediately grabbed my deputy, Audrey Strauss, brought her into the room. My deputy repeated the conversation, and she nearly hit the ceiling. It was something we'd never heard or seen before.
You refused to indict him, but Greg Craig was indicted. They went to the Washington District U.S. Attorney's Office. Eventually, he came to trial and was acquitted, I think, within 5 hours. Yes. Vindication?
It was vindication, but the case should never have been brought. I was on the phone with the U.S. Attorney from the District of Columbia trying to convince her not to indict Greg Craig. The case was too weak to be brought. It was inappropriate to be brought, and that's what the trial showed.
You also talked about an effort to get you to prosecute the former Secretary of State, John Kerry.
Okay, we're going to talk about that real quick. Before we go into that, I want to read some of the comments because I see folks in there, Miss Drew, and I think someone else is talking about Captain Smokey. Love the name. I would love to see your same passion about Hunter's laptop. Let me make it clear. If President, or better yet, if the investigation into Hunter Biden can show true ties to President Trump, it will be covered on this program. However, criminal activity, and I do believe there may be some criminal activity by Hunter Biden, that criminal activity that takes place from a regular citizen generally isn't talked about on here unless it's something that's really making news. Other than this is a hit job in regards to President, or and better yet, in regards to Hunter Biden. If Hunter Biden was doing exactly what he's doing now, but he wasn't the president's son, nobody would give a damn about him. So it's just not really going to be big news because we know where it's coming from. And in addition to that, Hunter Biden is not a politician. So I need to see 10% to the big guy turn into fruition. If that doesn't turn into fruition, and nobody really gives a damn about Hunter Biden. I understand it makes for good deflection. I understand it's a good way to detract from other subjects, but unless you can tie some significant criminal activity to President Biden, what his son is doing, it doesn't really concern anyone. By the way, keep in mind, Hunter Biden, for his crimes, was paid and made money off of the Ukrainians. He didn't steal any American taxpayers. Nobody was injured or passed away in his issues. Hell, he wasn't even a DUI like Nancy Pelosi's husband. No Americans apparently were affected or harmed by what Hunter Biden did at all. So, yeah, it's until you can present some type of evidence that it ties to President Biden. Like I said, there is that phrase, 10% to the big guy. Prove that, and then you got a story. But, going after Hunter Biden, nobody gives a shit about Hunter Biden. All right, now, I want you to hear this, because the reason I'm playing this is because the claim is that the liberals are weaponizing the DOJ. I see folks are saying, well, why do we care what he thinks? It's because he was part of the Trump administration, and he's stating that they deliberately weaponized the DOJ. Remember, I'm hearing from all my MAGA folks that the DOJ is a liberal-run organization, and they're in the camp for liberals, whether you're talking about Mueller or you're talking about James Comey. It's all about defending liberals. Well, this gentleman, a top former prosecutor out of New York for the federal government, is saying just the opposite. Now, like I said, I understand my audience don't give a shit about folks who speak critical of President Trump. But I do want to play it because it is going to lead into our box conversations. There's about another 50 seconds or so of it. So this is now the part where he suggests that the Trump administration was also trying to pressure the DOJ to go after former presidential candidate from 2004, John Kerry.
You also talked about an effort to get you to prosecute the former Secretary of State, John Kerry.
Yeah, that was truly outrageous. President Trump attacks John Kerry in 2 tweets, saying that Kerry engaged in possible illegal conversations with Iranian officials regarding the Iran nuclear deal. The very next day, the Trump Justice Department refers the John Kerry criminal case to the Southern District of New York. 2 tweets by the president, and the John Kerry criminal case becomes a priority for the Department of Justice. And the statute they wanted us to use was enacted in 1799 and had never been successfully prosecuted. So in about 220 years, this criminal statute was on the books. There were no convictions.
Your office also
1799. Now you want to talk about digging up something and go after someone. I hear this all the time from my MAG audience. They'll do anything. The goal is to prevent Trump from running again in 2024. According to this gentleman there, they dug up a statute to try to use a statute, a law or whatever, to try to use against president, or better yet, presidential candidate John Kerry from 1799 that has never been used to prosecute anyone else in American history. Okay, going straight to the box. Going straight to the box. I see somebody said, oh my God, I'm laughing. So he came to you, friend of the program. Welcome back, Randy. What's on your mind this evening?
Well, hello, friend. Well, I don't know how long you've been on the live, but so I don't know what's been said beforehand. But I watched that same interview yesterday, and it just goes to show you, I'm not even mad at Trump, right? I can't even be mad at him. It's just, I think we as a society have been disillusioned into believing there was some real guardrails, and it's very obvious, a self-governed nation as we are, we got a lot of stuff to like fix. We cannot have this type of nonsense in the future. And honestly, like, he really opened up a lot of people's eyes, and that's all I'm gonna say on it. I personally discuss, you know how I feel about that fool. So
Yeah.
I
Do you
I
think
just think it's
let,
just it's.
let me ask
Oh, go
you a
ahead.
fair question. Let me ask you a fair question. Do you see any of this type of activity coming from the side of the liberals at all?
No.
Okay. What about the
And I
notion?
say that
Go ahead.
because look at who our attorney general is. Like, Merrick Garland is like the most by the book guy that you could ever ask for. So I could see if we, if we had some sort of inkling that he was, a corrupt scumbag. But no, I don't. I think the DOJ is on the up and up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with him either. I don't believe that just simply criticizing Trump makes you some type of demon. What do you see? What do you see about this comment? Though, coming straight out of the comment section, keeping it real 747 nationalists and the uneducated. How do
Well,
you
I,
view
I
that?
guess, is it exposing or just making
You
them
said
come from under
exposure.
their rocks like we used to, like they used to be, right? Now
Right.
everybody's mainstream. The National Enquirer is now People Magazine. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
this is some crazy stuff that's happening right now. But anyway, I know you're popular, so I'm going to jump off. I just wanted to say that I think we just need to evaluate our self governance. I mean, if he could
Okay.
easily corrupt a DOJ, I mean, this shit is scary.
Yeah. Well, Adam Kinzinger, part of the January 6th hearings probe, has stated that he expects legislation to be passed after all of this is said and done to prevent future presidents from being Trump, so to speak. Because a lot of this was done on the honor system. Trump is doing a lot of things and pushing the envelope in certain ways that they didn't pass any rules to prevent it because they never thought anyone would do it. So he's stating that he believes they're going to have to pass some laws and legislation to prevent future presidents from doing some of the stuff Trump did. Do you see any need for that? I'm going to assume the answer is yes.
Oh, absolutely. But do I think it's going to happen? No. Especially if the Democrats don't get enough in majorities in November. I don't think the Republicans are going to help make any of that, fortifying any of that. I just don't see it.
Well,
I think
I don't know.
that's where we're at.
I don't know if I totally agree with that. I understand the Republicans are going to be in the tank for Trump, just like the liberals would be in the tank for a Democratic president. However, I think there are some bipartisan ideas, such as a law making it clear that a president cannot pardon himself. I don't think anybody, even on the Republican side, would disagree with that. Or a law suggesting that if a president is being investigated, he cannot give advice that's in his best interest, such as do not answer subpoenas. Now, I understand suggesting people plead the fifth. You have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. But telling people to not answer subpoenas, which in itself is a criminal act, stuff like that, I think you could even get the Republicans on board to agree with.
Mm. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Catch you
I'm
later,
just
Ray.
saying, you know how it is. Later.
Okay. I like Rainy. She comes in, she goes straight to the point. She ain't on no bullshit. Okay, looking at the comments, vote out all these corporate politicians, both sides. Keeping it real, what is the? I guess I have to ask the question of in a capitalistic society such as America, we are hardcore in favor of capitalism to a fault. So some might add in a society like that, what is a corporate politician? I mean, you want capitalism, you want unrestricted capitalism, you don't want folks telling you what to do. And I'm not talking to you directly, but I'm asking that question though. You know, in a capitalist society, how can we have a negative view of corporate politicians? That's kind of, I would assume, what comes along with it. Now, there are folks, particularly in the younger crowd, the Bernie Sanders type crowd, that are pointing out that capitalism is potentially going to be the downfall of us. We can talk about that, but let me go on back to the box. Too many Cupid stunt Dems in here. Build D1, come in the box. If you're not a Cupid stunt Dem, whatever the hell that may be, come in the box. I'll let you get your point across. You can show me up in front of, right now we have a small crowd, 195 people or so. Tap your screen, get your boy likes up. Let's go with 10,000. I don't know what the hell's going on this evening, but let's go to Shandy Bear. Or nevertheless, you're welcome to the program. Shandy, good evening.
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go live. I didn't mean to get in there on you. I'm just listening. I'm one of your
Okay.
followers.
Okay, well, I appreciate you on the program. Anytime you want to come in, feel free to tap the screen. And until then, I'll catch you in the comments.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right. You get a good night. Oh, there's another box in there, but let me, before I go to that, wealth distribution is a problem in this country. Keeping it real, in a capitalist society, the goal is to capitalize off opportunities. And one of the opportunities is the wealthier you get, the more opportunities present itself to capitalize off of those who are below you. Such as, if you're wealthy, you can lobby the politicians to get more laws passed in your favor. The working guy cannot do that. So not only do you have money, but now let's say, for instance, you don't want to pay as much in taxes. So you can lobby to a politician to suggest, well, how about lower taxes for those who invest? Well, the lower working class are not big time investors, the wealthy are. So you can literally start capitalizing off of more and more opportunities. So when you suggest that the wealth distribution is a problem in this country, well, it's probably rooted in the way our system runs in terms of capitalism. CMB Corrado, the mayor of Washington, D.C. is crossed. It's crying. Okay, wait a minute. Your grammar there. The mayor of D.C. is crossed. It's crying because over 6,000 immigrants have arrived in it. Okay, I kind of know what you're talking about, and I'll go right back to the box. A lot of this stems from Governor Abbott of Texas busing migrants to northern areas, liberal cities. They're not going to bus anyone to Indianapolis, Indiana, for instance, because it's in a red state. He's deliberately picking out liberals and politicizing things. Now, if you want to suggest that liberals are for open borders or Biden is not doing anything to secure our borders, Governor Abbott is further politicizing it. But let me also say this, and I'll go right back to the box. If you're an illegal immigrant coming into America, Governor Abbott is doing you a favor because he's helping bust you deeper into the country. And make no mistake about it, the Democrats are more illegal immigrant friendly than Republicans. So he's going to bust you deep into the country, and then he's going to put you around folks who are more allied with your cause, which is to immigrate to the United States. And he's doing it at the expense of Republican taxpayers. As a liberal, who could ask for more? I mean, I don't get why more Republicans are not speaking out against what they're doing down there. What Governor Abbott is doing is not securing the border at all. It's doing nothing for securing the border. He's just trying to, I suppose, put some hurt on liberal cities You know, it's too many immigrants coming into Texas, so we're going to make some liberal cities hurt as well. You're helping illegal immigrants stay here by doing that. You are literally helping them gain residency by shipping them by buses and things like that. And it sounds like the city of El Paso just signed a multi-year contract with a bus company so that they can continue. I think they want to get like 4 buses a week or something like that, where they're busing illegal immigrants up to New York or some of the other northern cities. But hey, you're helping out the cause. Looking in the comments here. Yes, and protect his own state. How is he really protecting the state, though? If you send illegal immigrants to New York or to Chicago or some liberal city, and they expedite letting them stay here, they can move back to Texas. I mean, once you let an illegal immigrant off in New York, that's not to say they can't get back on a bus or get with a family member. You're in Texas. You got family that maybe lives in North Texas, like Dallas or Denton or some of the northern cities up there, and you can't get to them because you are now being held by Border Patrol. Well, you get on the phone and you call maybe a family member in a different city, maybe in St. Louis or Memphis somewhere, and tell them the situation. They're going to drop me off in New York. Well, that family member can meet you in New York and take you back anywhere you want to go at that point. You don't have to stay in New York, and the New York authorities aren't going to treat immigrants the same way Texas is. So he's helping people stay in the country like that. I mean, most of these folks know people in the country, got friends, and then there's social programs for them. So it wouldn't surprise me if there are social programs that are starting to build up in New York that'll take some of those illegal immigrants wherever they want to go. They're probably donor programs. You got legalized Hispanics and liberals willing to donate the programs to help out illegal immigrants. So just because you take them to New York don't mean they're going to stay there is the point I'm trying to make. All right, looking at the comments. Republicans won't tell their constituents that all immigrants on these buses have temp visas. I didn't know that. Unapologetic black man, welcome back to the program. All of them do? A temporary visa, what is it, the 90-day visitor's visa? What kind of visa are they on? I didn't know that. I haven't heard that. Get in the box so we can hear what Republicans think. Vast, yeah, I'm always open to MAGA. The box is open right now, by the way, folks. Feel free to jump in. So Abbott put on the show, he's probably recruiting them. They love to distract. Well, whatever Abbott is doing, he's doing it at the expense of his own constituents. There are people, make no mistake about it, there are Texans that are not happy with Abbott using their tax money to give these folks a ride. Miss Drew, 2019. Believe this is a new caller. Miss Drew, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? What's on your mind this evening?
I have the video of Biden bragging about getting the prosecutor in Ukraine fired. You guys
Really? I like to.
true, but it is true.
What did he get him? Okay, he got the prosecutor of who fired?
Because he was investigating Hunter.
Okay, so this person was investigating potential crimes of Hunter Biden, and he got the individual fired. But what is Biden suggesting is the reason why he fired the person?
Biden said, if you don't get the prosecutor fired, then I'm not giving you the $1 billion. That's literally what he says in the video.
So this is a prosecutor. This is a prosecutor that works in Ukraine.
Yes, the prosecutor that works in Ukraine. This happened in it was the Burisma investigation. Okay.
You know, I think I do remember hearing about that when that was going on. But now in the comments, someone is suggesting that the prosecutor over there was corrupt. Now, I hear all the time from my MAGA audience in regards to giving.
But if the prosecutor is corrupt, then let that country deal with it. Why is Biden bribing them? He said.
I'd like to hear that video. I'd like to hear. Go ahead.
He said, if you don't fire them, you're not getting the money. Then he joked about it and said, well, I'll be damned. 6 hours later, they were fired and did giggles
Wow.
about it.
Wow.
Literally, I can send it to you.
Yeah, my email address is on my profile. I would love to hear it, and I would like to look it up and see what Biden, particularly.
I will definitely send it to you.
Yeah, I would like to see it, particularly though, if Biden is caught bragging about firing the guy or having the guy terminated. I'm going to assume somebody in the media presented that to the Biden camp and asked them to explain that. So I want to see what you have, and I want to see how the Biden camp responded to it.
You actually believe that someone in the mainstream media would question that?
Yeah. Well, let's just say Fox News. Peter Ducey or Steve Ducey, whichever one is the son. He asked Trump. Go ahead.
Even Tucker Carlson, absolutely not. No way. No way. Absolutely not. What?
I've seen the Ducey chat. I don't know if it's Peter Ducey or Steve Ducey, whichever one's a kid from Fox News. They ask Biden, they ask Biden tough questions all the time. Biden does get tough questions thrown at him.
Yeah, but they push it as far as they're allowed to push it, and that's about it. They're not. And like my number one question for you for a long time has been, why is it that your only media source is mainstream media?
Well, what is your definition of? Give me a news network. Give me a news network that you do not view as the mainstream media.
Real America's Voice, Steve Bannon, straight facts all day long. Regardless of how they demonize him, go in there, listen to him, and then fact check him.
So you believe Steve Bannon is an unbiased news source?
Yes, I do.
So if Trump does something wrong, he'll report on that fairly.
Absolutely. They criticize Trump all the time.
Okay. Go ahead. Say that again.
Alex Jones is one of his biggest critics.
Steve Bannon? I mean, he literally works for Trump. Would you entertain anyone that works on the Biden administration that is as close to Biden as Bannon was to Trump as an unbiased news source? Would you even be willing to entertain that?
All of Biden's news sources is mainstream media.
I mean, I get your point about the mainstream media. I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm just suggesting that you're telling me a very high-level member of the Trump administration that Trump personally appointed is an unbiased news source.
Yes, he can be very unbiased. Absolutely.
Okay.
Now,
and I'm asking you.
Be very critical.
Okay, and yeah. I'm asking you in return. Being a liberal, somebody who's on the other side of the aisle from you, if I presented you with a very high up member of the Biden administration or the Obama administration that was appointed by Biden or Obama themselves as an unbiased source, you would be willing to believe that that's possible?
I look at all of the media all the time.
Literally. Okay. All right. That's news to me. I don't know. Give me someone else other than Steve Bannon.
I mean, you can go on. You know what? Go on Epic Times.
You're coming with some. I mean, the Epic Times is a well-known right-wing news source, though. They're not unbiased.
You're not willing to be open-minded at all.
No, I'm open-minded. I mean, I'm willing to admit MSNBC is left, but I wouldn't. Go ahead.
But it's possible to fact check them, though. You can go out and fact check them. I do it all the time.
You can fact check any news source. There's no such thing as a news source you can't fact check.
Exactly. So do your own research. Go out, read it, do your own research, draw your own conclusions.
All right. That's fine. You're suggesting what most of America would easily define as right-wing news sources and calling them biased, unbiased. And you're going
Times is
Steve,
very unbiased
yeah, I mean,
because
Steve Bannon has actively helped campaign for President Trump. How can you have an unbiased news source actually out campaigning
but
for a particular candidate?
he's also critical of Trump at times too.
Yeah, but you're on stage campaigning for the guy. And you're telling me that's unbiased? You literally are making it clear who you want to win the election.
6 years ago, now he's campaigning for states.
Okay.
Now it's not so much
I
of
yeah, I just have a hard time believing any right winger would entertain a liberal version of Steve Bannon as unbiased.
the other side. So you say that you're okay with MAGA. You say that you want to
I am.
hear from MAGA, but you don't really want to hear from MAGA when it comes to what we believe is factual based media. You only want to hear from the left wing mainstream media.
No, no, no. I want to hear from MAGA, which is why I prefer talking to people just like yourself. Voters like you is who I prefer talking to. However, if you say something that I want to question, I'm not just going to swallow anything you feed
But
me. I am going to respond back. And when
I,
you say someone like Steve Bannon, who not only campaigned for Trump, but also was at the January 6th, I mean, he's one of the folks who gave a speech, actually is part of the crew that invited everybody to come to DC in regards to January 6th
but
in the first place. And you're suggesting he's unbiased. He's
but
about as pro-Trump as you can get.
so you don't realize how much FBI involvement was in January 6th then. See, that's what happens when you only watch one side of media. You don't get all of the story.
Give me some examples of how you're stating that the FBI was involved in
The
January
FBI
6th.
was involved in January 6th.
In what manner?
Go out on Project Veritas. You can go out on James O'Keefe. He literally has video of someone admitting it. Go out on Project Veritas and look at it. It's on.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Okay, fair. Right now, I'm obviously not able to do it while I'm having a live conversation with you. But let me ask you this: if what you're saying is true, is there any reason why and I'm talking about folks who were actually there on the ground there that day, January 6th. I'm talking about, and not liberals, Republican senators, Republican Congress, Vice President Mike Pence, the Capitol Police. Is there any reason why none of them are suggesting that the FBI was involved? I mean, is the entire Republican Party in the tank against Trump? None of them suggested that the FBI did anything.
Okay, so we don't really want to get into that because I have a whole different belief on that part of the Republican Party. I'm not a Republican. I'm a totally independent. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you right now, this is not about Trump. Um,
Well,
with
okay. Let me say this. Let me wrap it up again. I'm asking you, why is the Republican Senate, Republican Congress, and the Vice President, who were actually there that day on January 6th, why are they not blaming the FBI?
because they are never Trumpers. They are part of what is a global cabal.
So you believe the entire Republican Party, all of the senators, Congress, and the Capitol Police, and the Vice President, all of them are never Trumpers.
For the most, I mean, as far as Congress goes, the Capitol Police, I believe that just like the local police departments, they gotta, be quiet about a lot of things. The Capitol Police has to be quiet, but as far as Congress goes, Mike Pence, he's POS. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let me ask you a different question. This is interesting. This is fascinating for my audience. We had like 400 and some protesters that have been arrested, and a lot of them have had trials. Some of them are still sitting in jail. However, when they offered up defenses for trying to lessen their sentences or whatever the case may be, Some of them blame Trump, and then some of them came up with their other reasons. But the question I want to ask is, why has not a single protester that has been charged with the January 6th issue suggested that the FBI was involved? I mean, it would help them out more than anyone. If anyone would want to stand up and say Antifa did it, or Ray, whatever his name is, the FBI folks, you guys are suggesting that the FBI, why hasn't any of the arrestees used that claim? They were there that day and they would benefit from it. They're not even blaming the FBI.
Happening to them in there?
Huh?
Have you seen what is happening to the J6 protesters that are in jail?
No, I have not heard any of them say the FBI is involved in it, though. They could speak up. If they're in jail, say that again?
Have you seen what is happening to them?
No, what's happening to them?
Just the other day, they were pepper sprayed because one guy walked out of a cell without a mask. They have been physically abused for 18 months.
Okay.
And
so if they are being...
families have spoken out about it. And that's what I mean by only watching the mainstream media. You don't know these things because they're not speaking out about it.
So if what's happening to them is as atrocious as what you're talking about, why aren't they speaking out and saying the FBI was there on January 6th?
They can't. They don't have a voice. Who's going to give them a voice? The mainstream
how do
media.
you know they got pepper sprayed? If they have no voice and can't speak out, how do you know they got pepper sprayed?
Right, because there were some Congress people that went into there, and the Epic Times reported on it.
Yet the Congress people could go in there and see them getting pepper sprayed, but not get any one of them to talk about the FBI?
What does the FBI have to do with it at that point? They have been starved. They have been beaten. They don't have any clubs. They don't have anything.
Well, when you ask what does the FBI have to do with it at that point, I mean, eventually, no matter how long this goes on, they eventually are going to go to court. They probably should have been in court already. I get your point on an expeditious trial that they've been denied. But eventually, when they go to court, they need to be able to tell that, listen, it wasn't us, it's the FBI. Why aren't they bringing that up now?
Well, because you have anti-Trump judges that if they go in there, just like the Bannon trial, just like the Alex Jones trial, when they weren't allowed to say, hey, I'm innocent, they were literally not allowed to say that in court. If they go in there and they say that, they're going to have harsher sentences.
Okay, I want to ask you this. Now, it's not meant to be an insult, but you can, if however you feel about it, don't censor yourself. Tell me whatever. What do you think about QAnon?
Oh, I'm not. Absolutely, I'm not. I think it's. No. I'm not. Nope. I think it's BS.
I don't know what you just said, Jared. I'll repeat. What do you think of QAnon?
I have no words for QAnon. I'm not a QAnon follower. I think it's a psyop. No. Don't. No.
Okay. What do you mean by a psyop?
I mean, I don't know who's in charge of it. But I think that whoever is following it is being, I think they're being misled. I think they're being, I think it's BS, basically. I mean,
all right, fair point.
Follow it. I know people follow it, and this date, that date. Oh, Trump's coming back to be president next month. JFK is still alive. What the actual F? That is ridiculous.
Okay, I have to ask you this before we part ways. I do got to move because I got other folks in the box, but the 2020 election, who won?
Trump.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Hey, listen, anytime, we don't have to agree. Anytime you see me on, you're welcome back. This is our first time talking, right?
Yes, let me say this. Go out and look at the Seth Keshel election report. That's
okay. My email address is open to you. Send me what you got. I've watched 2000 Mules half a dozen times. I saw all of Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium. I don't dismiss what you guys say. I do look at it. So send me what you got. If you see me on, come on back through.
2000 Mules has nothing on Seth Keshel.
Okay, send me that, and I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You have a good night.
You too.
As I say all the time, we don't always have to agree or disagree. I want to hear the opinion of the folks. And she mentioned that, you act like you don't. You say you want to talk to Maggie, you don't. Well, I'm talking to you, and I am willing to talk to you out there who are watching the program. As I make it clear, and as you have seen, I demonstrate time and time again. I don't block, I don't ban, I don't censor, and I never talk down to my guests, despite whatever opinions we may have and how our differences may lie. Going back to the box, someone said she didn't add water and sugar to her Kool-Aid. Just drank it dry, huh? Dry powder. Okay, New York City Queen. I'm going to assume probably is going to be mentioned in this conversation. Good evening, Queen. Queen, are you there? Okay, she dropped. You are a rare liberal. I appreciate you. Thank you. Who's that? Miss Chavez. Appreciate that. No relation to Hugo, I take it, but I do appreciate that. Thank you. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to change the facts. Fancy prancing. Good point. But you have to sometimes hear how people interpret different things. I mean, it's amazing how folks can hear the same conversation and have a totally different interpretation of it. And I invite folks to come on and tell me that. By the way, folks, follow the channel. Get your boy up to 10,000 likes. We try to maintain some decent content, keep it entertaining. I'm going to go back to the box. When did Hennessy start making Kool-Aid? The quicker flipper. Oh, my God. I don't know where to go with that. As you see on the monitor, we're talking about over 30 subpoenas that were issued by the Department of Justice. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with the documents seized at Mar-a-Lago. It appears as though the January 6 hearings are about to be back in the news. So they're going after members of the Trump camp because they want to find out what he was doing leading up to January 6th. Now, I want to play this real quick because there's been different folks coming in. This is about a minute or so. I'm going to go right back to the box because this video is in relation to folks suggesting that the liberals have been weaponizing the DOJ. This is a top member of the federal prosecution team out of New York under the Trump administration. So he was a member of the Trump administration, and he's talking about weaponizing the DOJ.
Office 40 years, never saw anything like that. It was unprecedented and scary.
Let's talk about some of the specifics. So you talk about an effort by the president's allies in the Justice Department to get you to indict Greg Craig, who was a Democrat who had worked for President Obama. Talk about what happened.
We were investigating Greg Craig and were pushed by the Justice Department to indict Greg Craig, a Democrat, before the midterm elections. The Justice Department told us, hey, you had just indicted two allies of the president, Chris Collins, who's a Republican congressman from upstate New York, and Michael Cohen, who's the...
Okay, I'm going to pause it real quick. The reason why I'm playing this is because we're talking about the liberals weaponize the DOJ, and they're doing it all of a sudden right before the midterms. He's saying the same thing happened under the Trump administration, and he was part of the Trump administration. I will talk to you on the other side of this video. We'll continue.
Who's the president's lawyer and fixer, and it's time for you guys to even things out and indict a Democrat before the midterm election.
You talk about a Justice Department official, Edward O'Callaghan. He says this is categorically false.
Well, it absolutely happened. My deputy was on the phone with him when he was told we've got to even things out. He immediately came into my office, told me about the conversation. My jaw dropped. And I immediately grabbed my deputy, Audrey Strauss, brought her into the room. My deputy repeated the conversation, and she nearly hit the ceiling. It was something we'd never heard or seen before.
You refused to indict him, but Greg Craig was indicted. They went to the Washington District U.S. Attorney's Office. Eventually, he came to trial and was acquitted, I think, within 5 hours. Yes. Vindication?
It was vindication, but the case should never have been brought. I was on the phone with the U.S. Attorney from the District of Columbia trying to convince her not to indict Greg Craig. The case was too weak to be brought. It was inappropriate to be brought. And that's what the trial showed.
You also talk.
Now, that's the first part of this. You're talking about Trump being prosecuted in witch hunts. What he is talking about is essentially the definition of a witch hunt. He's suggesting that Trump, after having Michael Cohen and another Republican indicted, the Trump administration promoted them to indict some liberals now. You went at the Republicans, you need to get some liberals to even it out, which that's not how the justice system works, but kind of like an affirmative action for political parties. So I've heard many of my MAGA folks suggest that Trump is often a victim of a witch hunt. What he is suggesting is that President Trump himself was promoting his department to do exactly that. Now, here's one where he's also stating that Trump specifically wanted them to go after former presidential candidate John Kerry from 2004.
We'll talk about an effort to get you to prosecute the former Secretary of State, John Kerry.
Yeah, that was truly outrageous. President Trump attacks John Kerry in 2 tweets saying that Kerry engaged in possible illegal conversations with Iranian officials regarding the Iran nuclear deal. The very next day, the Trump Justice Department refers the John Kerry criminal case to the Southern District of New York. 2 tweets by the president, and the John Kerry criminal case becomes a priority for the Department of Justice. And the statute they wanted us to use was enacted in 1799 and had never been successfully prosecuted. So in about 220 years, this criminal statute was on the books. There were no convictions. Your office.
Okay. Now, if Kerry was guilty, and I see Fancy Pressy said he did, Kerry was doing it. If Kerry was guilty of anything, a statute from the year 1799 has never been used successfully. If you want to talk about a witch hunt, you want to talk about just deliberately fucking with somebody, you come up with an old law that has never been enforced to go after somebody. So we can talk about witch hunts against the former president, meaning Trump. And we often do. I get a lot of my MAGA folks pointing out that they're just messing with Trump, trying to prevent him from running for office again. But this gentleman here, a former member of the Trump administration, is making it clear that Trump himself was deeply involved in witch hunts, deeply involved in them. So I just want you guys to, because I often say this on the program, is that oddly enough, a lot of the things that Trump state that are being wrongfully done to him are things that you can find out later that he's done to other people, and it looks like sometimes it's just karma. I don't know, but we'll go right back to the comments. I don't know what's going on tonight with the program, but we'll go straight to Joby and keep the. Appreciate you guys holding on. Good evening to you.
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. What do you think about that? You think Trump was weaponizing the government?
Since the beginning, weaponizing it and monetizing it.
So I've often said that I personally believe, because Trump doesn't take disloyalty or criticism or any controversy towards him very lightly. I've suggested that if Trump was to be reelected, he would go on a revenge tour, stuff like we're seeing here. Could you see something like that actually happening?
He's got nothing to lose at that point, so absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. Go ahead.
Regarding that last caller, a couple of calls ago, about how the insurrectionists are being treated in jail. Right. I find it hard to believe that they're being deprived clothes and food, and they're being starved, and they're being maced. They're not in at Guantanamo. They're in the U.S. system, and I find it hard to believe. And how is she getting the information?
Well, and I was going to ask her that because I saw it swarming in the comments, because she suggested that essentially all of the Republican Party, senators, Congress, and even Mike Pence are all they're never Trumpers and things like that. So if you think that they all can't be trusted, then where are you getting the information about how these people are being treated in prison? Because you said politicians went in there, and why would you trust them? You know, like you said, I don't believe they would be being denied clothes. I mean, hell, even guys out of the hood don't go to prison and say they're being denied clothing. Ain't nobody
Is
walking
anybody,
around naked.
is any senators or Congress people from the right checking in on these people?
That's a good question. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I mean, you think they would be if they were that concerned.
Yeah. Well, I don't think a lot of the Republican senators in Congress have a lot of love for these people. Trump does, but for some of these politicians, they kind of want to distance themselves from what happened on January 6th because politically, it's not in their long-term best interest. For Trump, the max he can be in office is 4 years. But if you're Marco Rubio or Lindsey Graham or someone, you could have a long career ahead of you. And being tied to the January 6th hearings or January 6th protests, once Trump is gone, that's going to be a detriment to your career. And a lot of folks don't want to be tied to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can certainly see most of the Republican senators in Congress, they may make a phone call, but they're not going to be going in jail to check on these people. Remember, they're supposed to be the party of law and order. You want to go in jail and check on people who were deliberately breaking the law? Okay, Joby. I
I'm
don't know
getting
if okay, I don't. You were dropping out. I don't know, for some reason he came. Okay, Russia gave him a lot of information on all those politicians. Keeping it real, you're saying Russia gave him a lot of information on Republican politicians? Haven't heard that. I would love to know what he has on all of them. That's an interesting. I don't know. You mean on the Republicans? I think that Trump's primary source of influence is the fact that if you don't agree with him, he can get you voted out of office. Liz Cheney, for all of the name calling and the rhinos and disdain that the Republican Party has for her career was pretty much secure. If Jeb Bush had got elected, Liz Cheney could probably have remained a representative in Wyoming for the rest of her life. Now she would have a hard time being a Republican city council member. I mean, just her whole career has been destroyed. So that's what Trump has over these people, is that he can destroy their careers, no matter how high up or how much respect they have within the Republican Party, because John McCain was the nominee for the Republican ticket for president. So he clearly had a hell of a lot of influence and respect in the Republican Party. Thanks to his arguments or back and forth with Trump, he pretty much died on the outside of the Republican Party. He would have been a war hero. And that's going to happen to Dick Cheney now, which was another guy that would have probably been well respected in Republican circles. Certainly George W. Bush and Jeb Bush were highly respected in Republican circles. He's destroyed their careers. So, yeah, a lot of these Republican politicians, when you ask what does he have on them, job security. Going back to the box here, Ohio Trucker. Good evening. I think we may have talked before. Ohio Trucker, good evening. Okay,
Yo,
okay, Ohio, yeah, good evening.
how's your day?
It's going good. Have you been listening in?
Am I
I can
cutting
see
in
your
now?
video. Yeah, I know. I can see your video.
Yeah, Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are cutting in and out. Go ahead and state your point. Let me see if I can hear it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene went to the prisons and they wouldn't let her in because I seen the video. It was well pronounced.
Okay. Well, yeah, Marjorie Taylor. Wow, if you let Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Go ahead.
I can understand. I can understand why they wouldn't let her in, but I suppose they should have let her in. But wow, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean, she said some pretty outlandish shit. Okay. Oh, Yeah, trucker, I'm gonna have to drop
She
you.
has
I
really
think you
good
got a
values, though.
you're in
That's
a
my opinion.
okay. I personally have to drop him. He's obviously had a pretty bad signal there, but you're always welcome back to the program. He shouldn't be driving a truck while doing videos. Well, if he has his phone in a holder and it's not in his hand, he can talk to the phone. I mean, he's essentially just talking to me. I used to drive over the road and we had the headsets on and things like that. So you could have Facebook conversations and any of that. So he could easily have both hands on the wheel and be wearing a headset and communicating. So don't write him off just yet. Don't write him off. She probably want to have her gun with her. Lewis is saying if Marjorie Taylor Greene was to be led into federal prison, she probably would have her gun with her. They were within the law not to let Marjorie Taylor Greene in. It may be so, but it's just like when the Red Cross wanted to go check on children at the border under the Trump administration, and he was denying them. Yeah, he within the law, but it looks bad. If you got folks that are being held somewhere, and people believe that they're being mistreated, and a group shows up to check on them, and you prevent the group from seeing them, it looks suspect. Whether it's within your legal rights or not, it's going to look suspect when you're blocking people from being checked on. So, but at the same time, Marjorie Taylor Greene, goddamn. I mean, we know Marjorie Taylor Greene is about as biased and twisted as they come. MAGA doesn't care about the collateral damage as long as Trump comes out unfazed. I believe that comment is what I normally refer to as a home run. Yeah, I've seen damage. What is the guy? Ray Epps? Guy went to the Capitol building to protest just like all the other MAGA, and they used him as a scapegoat. He suddenly became an FBI guy and all of a sudden receiving death threats. There's a lot of MAGA that were down for the cause and somehow got used as a scapegoat, and they're like, shit, I wish I'd have never supported the movement. So, yeah, I do agree that anybody can be sacrificed as long as it's not Trump. Nobody gives a shit about Rudolph Giuliani. He was down with the program. Jim Barr, remember how Jim Barr tried to wrap up the Trump impeachments and help Trump out to not get impeached? He's an enemy now. I mean, Mike Pence went all over the country defending Trump. Yeah, they will. You can be friend of the program, definitely MAGA. Okay, old timer. I appreciate you holding, man. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
None at all. You've been listening in, I take it?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, what's on your mind this evening?
Oh, I was just saying, I had an acquaintance back when I was in the service in '90 in Florida that was a federal prosecutor.
Okay.
And he said one of the biggest problems he had in his job, and it didn't matter who was in power. One of the biggest problems he had in his job is he couldn't chase real crime and real indictments because somebody in government would get their feelings hurt at a tea party, and then they would be told, because it was implied, to find something on them and bring up an indictment to hurt their career. And
wow.
So, I mean, the DOJ, they don't even know. It seems like today they don't even know the difference between an indictment and a conviction, and who needs it and who doesn't. But according to him, depending on who was in power, who was elected president, because they always, all of them, shuffle the DOJ around a little bit, that it's implied that if somebody hurt the feelings of somebody that was close to him, you're supposed to go after them. And then they couldn't actually chase real crime because of that.
Yeah, and that sounds like something that takes place no matter which administration is in office, because we're suggesting that it's being done right now under the Biden administration. And then I just played the video where you got a federal prosecutor that's stating that they were ordered to do it under the Trump administration. So I don't know what the solution is if both sides are doing it. And Trump was supposed to be the one that was elected. Trump was supposed to be elected to drain the swamp. But it sounds like he just jumped right on in the swamp with everybody else.
Well, the more I listen and the more it goes along, it sounds like he drained what he could of the swamp to put put his own shit water in it.
which is no better. If you drain the swamp and fill it up with shit water.
Right? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But I was wondering what that lady was saying a little while ago. Did she say that she saw the report in a newspaper called the Epic Times?
And she said the Epic Times is an unbiased source.
They must be very unbiased. I've never heard of them.
You never heard of the Epic Times? EPOCH? I've seen them all. I've never read any of their material, but they're all over the internet advertising. And it's certainly a right-wing publication. But she was also suggesting that Steve Bannon from the Trump campaign or the Trump administration, she suggested that Steve Bannon is an unbiased news source.
I think depending on what side you go down, you could find unbiased on that side, and if you go to the other side, they're all biased. That's just the way it's perceived.
Yeah, but even if you are MAGA, even if you are a strong Trump supporter, how could you view Steve Bannon as unbiased? I mean, he literally is out campaigning for President Trump. He was one of the keynote speakers at the January 6th gathering. How could you suggest that he is unbiased by any means of the word?
I don't know. I don't even have an answer for the people that are losing their minds. I just, it's like I've told my kids, there's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. And ignorance is not having full knowledge or training of a particular subject or any knowledge or training of a particular subject. It's okay to be ignorant. Like me, I'm a licensed pilot and a wildlife expert. So in the field of neuroscience and neurology, I'm ignorant. However, stupidity is having the training and the common sense and choosing not to use it. And that's a huge difference.
Damn. What do you
just
you fly single engine? I'm just curious. You fly single? What do you fly?
Yeah, I used to fly singles and twins and helos, but if it's got wings or rotors, I can get it off the ground.
Oh, damn, helos too, huh? Okay. Military?
Yeah, it's like we used to. Yeah, it's military. It's like we used to say. You're going to go up and come down at least one time. That's guaranteed.
Well, it's the speed of the descent that we're concerned with. How fast am I coming down is what I'm concerned with.
No, that's no concern until you hit the ground.
You're not making me feel any better.
Well, it's not the fall of the descent that gets you. It's the sudden impact at the end of it. That's just the way it is.
Well, it's good to see you're in one piece and you never went down at a high velocity. So it's good to see you here.
But hey, man, I appreciate what you do because you're bringing some truthful light and a clean perspective to the situation, so that maybe we're finding common ground. Everybody finds common ground through you and through your platform to get that common footing to actually come back together. And because that's, like I've said before on your lives, man, that's just a show up there. It's just a game.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having anytime we talk, man. It's always good to hear from you. And by the way, thank you for your service. What branch were you in?
I was 13 total time, half Navy, half Army.
Oh, wow. Okay. Half and half. Like I don't think I've heard too many people that did half Navy and Army, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was in the Army, I served with a lot of guys that were in the Navy, and I served with a lot that used to be in the Marine Corps. But what I didn't serve a lot with was anybody from the Air Force. Okay. Once you go in the Air Force and you get that pampered, you just can't handle the other branches.
Well, they do got the biggest budget too, so it's got to be nice to get up in there.
Well, you know how they got that budget, don't you?
How so?
If they need $20 million for a runway, they approach the Department of Defense and they approach Congress and they go, "We need $20 million for a runway." And they go, "Okay, we'll work it into the budget." So they give that base $20 million for a runway, and they put in cafes and Hilton barracks And then at the end of the fiscal year, they go, "Oh, we need 20 million for a runway." And the other
Well,
branch, the other branches need 20 million for a runway. They get 20 million for a runway, and they spend 22 million building it, and then everybody eats crackers.
well, then the Air Force sound like they figured it out. Hey,
Yeah.
good talking to you. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right, you too. Always a pleasure. All right, look at comments here. Facts. Pilot to co-pilot, we're going down in flames. Well, aren't you sitting next to the co-pilot? You're literally looking at him, telling them that shit. That's scary. Note to Demi will rule from. Wait a minute. So he can land a plane on a football field ship. You're talking about a carrier. I don't know. I should have asked him that. Has he ever done any carrier landings? Navy. The Navy, well, it also depends on what he's flying, but he said single and dual engine in heli. So I'm assuming a heli you can land on an aircraft carrier or a small, or even smaller ship. But yeah, I have to talk to him. OK calls in a fair bit, so we talk. So I have to be sure to ask him that again. Let me go to Kenneth's Life 7. We're talking about the DOJ sending out a hell of a lot of subpoenas. This is in regards to the January 6 hearings, not the documents seized at Mar-a-Lago. The January 6 hearings are going to be coming back. Remember, Liz Cheney stated that they were taking a recess, and this would resume in September. So the January 6 hearings are about to resume again. All right, so Janice, can you hear me? Or Kenneth's Life.
I can hear you.
Okay. What's on your mind this evening? I think you've been listening to the program.
Oh man, I listen to you every day, just kind of in the background while I'm making my products and living my life. But man, that female caller had me going.
Well, she's not cute. She is not cute. She doesn't support QAnon at all.
Well, I don't know if I believe that. Everything she was saying was very Q-based, but also she said she wasn't a Trump supporter, but then at the end said that she was a Trump supporter. But that's besides the point. One of the things that I think gets me every single day is when people say it's so unprecedented. And you know what? Just because it hasn't happened in the past doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen now.
I agree. Well, let me say this in regards to her saying that she is not MAGA. Adam Kinzinger, who's working with Liz Cheney as part of the January 6th committee, he stated on This Week with George Stephanopoulos about a month ago that he said in about 5 years it's going to be difficult to find anyone that admits they supported Trump. I'm going to give you an explanation, and you tell me what do you think of that. Now, I'm not necessarily taking it in a racial conversation, but I just want to give you an example. Back when they first allowed, or when the Supreme Court ruled that schools could be integrated, there is video footage of a black girl going to an all-white school, and people were spitting on her and yelling all kinds of racist stuff while she had the National Guard with her. Well, the reason I'm going off to this point is because some of the folks who were against letting this black kid go to school are still alive. But you would never get them to admit that they were part of the crowd that was spitting on her. And point is, Kinzinger believes that Trump is going to fall so far on the wrong side of history, similar to those folks who were against that African-American girl, that folks are going to not want to admit that they once supported him. Now, I will tell you this. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot of MAGA supporters right now in 2022. But I'll tell you, even in my little small corner of social media, I'm starting to get more and more folks that are saying, you know, I'm not really for Trump, but I think he's being treated wrong. So I'm getting people that you can clearly tell are MAGA, clearly defending Trump, but starting to slowly state that they're not MAGA. They're backing off from admitting they actually are down with the guy. I'm actually seeing it already. Can you see something like that happening?
I do see a lot of that. I actually live in Colorado. We're a very blue state, but we do have a lot of military here. I have 4 military bases where I live. And so we do have a lot of Republicans in the area. But I'm a restaurant manager, so I see hundreds of people a day. And I do see a lot of people that are just done with it. They're done with the Republican Party. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They're not necessarily Democrats, but they don't want to deal with the Trump kind of, I call it the Trump nation, but they are more of like a
They're
Liz Cheney
traditional
Republican.
conservatives. Yeah, they're traditional conservatives, like the Liz
Yeah.
Cheneys and Cummings. Yeah, they're traditionals.
Like
Wow.
I actually like Liz Cheney, and I consider myself a liberal. But for a Republican, I think she's great.
Yeah.
But as far as like back in the day when that poor little girl went to school with a National Guard around her, I think in the last probably 10 years, there's been a lot of focus on, hey, that's not right. You shouldn't call
Right.
people that word. Hey, that's not right. You shouldn't do that to someone. There's been a lot of that going on. So I think that people have been straightening up a little bit on their actions. But in the last year, maybe a year and a half, I always say you're letting your MAGA show. And those are those people straight up. Those are those people who come out and they just blatantly say the N word, or they blatantly,
Oh, oh.
they do
So,
those things, or like I
so
have a daughter
you
who's
see,
gay.
so you see legitimacy in what the FBI is claiming that, thanks to the FBI in 2017 was saying that because of Trump's rhetoric, it's causing a rise in hate crimes and white supremacist actions. You're saying that you're kind of seeing that as well.
I see it online more than I see it on person. But my daughter went to a women's rally up in a major city in Colorado, and people were throwing eggs at her, calling her a fag, F word, calling her all of those names. And she came home and she was just in tears. And she's like, why do they do that? Why do they hate me? And then about that time is when I think it was a preacher came out and said he wants to line them all up and shoot them.
Damn. So, I mean, I don't want to get too personal. Is your daughter a member of the LGBT? Why would they say that?
Yeah, she's gay.
Okay, all
She's
right,
gay.
okay,
She took a pride flag to a women's rights rally.
okay.
And so what I did was I stuck a pride flag. I have a Jeep, and I stuck a pride flag on the back of my Jeep, and I drove it around, and I dared anyone to come near me.
Nothing wrong with that. So, and did you say you were in Kansas? You were in a red
No,
area?
God, I'm in Colorado. Thank God.
Oh, but wait a minute though. Wait a minute though. Got to give Kansas a shout out for their work on preventing LGBT or preventing Roe versus
I
Wade.
am so proud of Kansas. So
So
proud of Kansas.
give Kansas a little bit of love. They could. I
I
mean,
got
they.
him. I got him. I'm just more of a mountain girl than a plains girl.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, so I don't know because I think it will be like that if we keep seeing that folks that are just simply saying, "Well, I don't support Trump, but I just cannot tell you how many folks I'm starting to get on this program where it's you can clearly tell this person is Trump, this person is MAGA, and
Right.
they'll stare up and down at you. I don't, but yeah, but I don't support him. It's like everything you're saying resonates with MAGA, but you're at the end of the conversation saying, but I don't, I'm not really for Trump and all of that. Do you believe, as they say, the 74 million that voted for Trump, do you believe he's maintained that amount of support?
I don't think so. I
How
don't think
much you
so.
think he won?
I mean, honestly, I can't really say. I'm hoping it's at least dropped about 25%.
Wow.
Just, I mean, I guess I would really like to think that our nation is not going to fall for the racist, the belittling, the theft, the lies, the all of it.
Well, I have to ask you because I just being fair to my MAGA folks, I always get this question anytime someone says that Trump is intolerant. Give me an example of something that you believe Trump did or said that would indicate that he is racist.
Wasn't he put up on charges in like the 80s for not letting black people live in his New York condos?
Yeah, he did lose a discrimination suit. Yeah, that did happen.
I mean, we should have ended it right there, but I mean,
Yeah.
I also have friends that have mentally developmental children. And so the second he went off on his R word rant, that was done. That's not racist, but you know,
Wait, wait.
against a whole.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what you said. Yeah.
Right. So, as a feminist, you ain't grabbing me by nothing, son. Like,
But that was locker room talk. That wasn't supposed to be real. That was just locker room talk.
as the president of the United States, you no longer get locker room talk.
Yeah. Well, what
If
I've
you want
said,
locker room talk, step down.
yeah, what I've said before, though, well, he did it in private, though. You should be able to have locker room talk in private. But what I've said, though, is that if you're worth $10 billion, which is what Trump claims to be worth, I mean, regardless of how much he's worth a hell of a lot of money. He's in the 1%. And I've said before, not to, I'm being blunt here, but if you're worth $10 billion, you do not have to lie on your dick. And what I mean when I say lie on your dick is you don't have to tell dick tales. If you're worth $10 billion and you tell me you've had orgies with 40 women there all together at once, I'm believing it because a guy who has $10 billion can actually do that. The point I'm trying to make is you don't need to make up stories if you're worth $10 billion. I don't believe there's any locker room talk that is fictional coming from a guy worth $10 billion, has his own television show, his own jet, gold toilets, and all of this crap. If you have all of that, any story you say, you actually could make it happen. You could take the ugliest guy on earth, give him $10 billion, and he can make all that come true. So there's no way I believe that he would have to make up a story on his dick. You don't have to lie on your dick when you're worth 10 billion bucks.
I think as a politician, why are you talking about your dick?
Well, he wasn't at the time though. He was a celebrity. I'll give him the defense at that time when he said that on that bus. He was not a politician at that time.
He was not, but still, I believe he was at least running. I don't know. He's not my thing. He's definitely not my thing.
All right, fair point. Fair point. All right, well, listen. Come on back anytime. We've talked before, haven't we?
We have. The last time I talked to you, I was making products and I accidentally hit the request, and you said Kenna's life, and I was like, why is he calling my name?
Well, you gotta understand. Excuse me from being. I'm from the South Side of Chicago, some of the worst parts of town. When you say you're making product, I'm like, what is she over there producing? So
I
hopefully,
make CBD products, and I make organic
oh, shit.
toothpaste and body butters. What else? I make dog treats and salves and tinctures, and I'm a real Coloradoan, not real
Okay.
Colorado mountain girl.
Fair enough. I like Colorado. I've been to the Denver, been to the Aurora area, Colorado Springs. Been in that state several times. So
Good,
good
good.
talking to
Well, it
you.
was nice
Come back.
talking to you. I'll be watching.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you. Catch you on the next one. All right. Looking in the comments here, go Broncos. Damn,
Money on Seattle. I actually got CNN running in the background. Just I always have it when I'm chopping it up with the folks here. I like to keep the main networks on, so if anything breaks, we can talk about it. But they're talking about the Queen all this week, and excuse me for saying it, that's boring to me. I have no interest in hearing about Queen Elizabeth over and over. And they're not going to lay her to rest until next Monday. So there's 7 more days of this. I have zero interest in this at all. So I found myself getting off of Fox News and CNN and actually turning on the internet for other stuff because all of the cable outlets are covering this stuff. And it's like, it's just boring. I mean, we're not a Commonwealth country. We don't operate under the Queen. Yeah, it's just, like, tell me she died, if they're going to have a 2-hour special on or something, that's fine. But for her to dominate American news for hours and hours on end, I just zero interest in it. But maybe that's me. I see Cornstar said, yeah, I mean 14 days of it is too much. Yeah. I mean, hell, even if Biden or Obama or Trump passed away, I don't want to see that for 14 straight days. That's a long time. I mean, I could see for something like 9/11 where stuff was still closed and the country was still healing for quite a bit, but you pass away, you pass away. I suppose a president maybe a week, but after that, I want to see some regular TV again. So, especially when the chick is like 95, 96 years of age, it's not like it was a surprise. It's not like she was Betty White. We weren't expecting her to make 100, were we? All right, going back to the box. Let's try Joby again. You were breaking up last time.
So haunted by the funeral of who? Your coming chopped off the Joby.
Hey,
good
man,
evening.
how you doing?
I'm doing
Yeah.
good.
Queen Elizabeth's she's on tour, man.
Say that
The
again.
Queen's on tour.
Yeah, yeah, she actually is.
I mean,
that is actually what they're doing. Is they're dragging her around. We don't
do you
that.
think
If
she's in
one
there?
of our presidents die, yeah, I would. You think they're carrying around an empty box?
I don't know, man. Who would know?
Yeah, she did know. Yeah, free for all. I didn't see you in the box at all. I see you said I skipped you. I didn't see you in there. No, I don't think they're carrying around an empty box.
So the last caller about you were talking about is Trump racist. Now, I'm a black man, you're a black man.
Okay. Fair enough.
When a white man says to you, I'm the least racist person in the room.
I've never heard that before Trump. Other than Trump, I've never heard anybody say anything crazy like that.
But what does that mean to a black man?
Well, if you say you're the least anything, that means you're admitting that you are. You're just a very low version of it. Exactly. I mean, if I say I'm the least Southern in the room, that means I do have some affiliation with the South. I'm not just very Southern. So I'm
the least racist person here. I'm the least racist person here. I mean, isn't that what it said verbatim? I am the least racist person here. Not saying I'm not racist. I'm the least racist.
Exactly. You should know. You should know how to just simply come out and say, no, I don't have a racist bone in my body. To say I'm the least racist, yeah, you'd have to expect people to look at that and go, "What the fuck what the hell does that mean?"
And she was asking for examples of what he, racist things he's done. The top two that come to my mind is the birther movement, which he pushed for years.
Well, but does the birther movement, with him suggesting that Barack Obama was born somewhere else, does it have to be racist? What if he just didn't like the guy and wanted to? I mean, because he did come out and admit Obama was born in the country, but I don't know. I assume that you could probably interpret that in a way in which it was not racist. It probably was, but there is a way out of that. Give me another one.
In 2020, I believe it was, when he retweeted a Florida follower yelling the word white power. It went up on his Twitter account for nearly 3.5 hours.
And he suggested that he never heard the man say that. We talked about that last night on the program.
He said it twice and clear.
Yeah. And I had a Trump supporter on the program last night, vehemently defending the possibility that Trump did not hear that. And I'm thinking, like, it's the loudest verbalization of anything on the entire tweet. And he's busy. Maybe he didn't listen. And I'm thinking, he's a president. Mm-hmm. He's a very successful businessman that knows the value of signing contracts and doing things and putting his name on it. You're going to tell me that a guy at that level is going to tweet out something without even knowing what's on it? Then what made him tweet it out? If he didn't even listen to it, what made him think it was worthy of tweeting out? It made no sense at all. And he had no other choice but to just laugh, because he knew, like, I just said some shit that made no sense at all.
And I was... I actually had a conversation with a woman in person, an older white woman, and I asked her about that, because she asked me the same question. Well, what has he done? And I pointed that tweet out, And the first thing she said to me was, well, you just don't get his sense of humor. So I stopped her right there, and I'm like, okay, let's go from there. I said, now I want you to tell me what is so funny about that.
Yeah, that's
And
not.
she,
What about? Okay, but let me ask you this: Wolverine, friend of the program, is saying, Biden knows if you're black or not. In other words, vote for me, or you ain't black. How do you view that? Because a lot of folks on the right are suggesting that Biden is the intolerant one. He's the one that's really racist. How do you view that when folks say that how do you vote for
when folks
Biden?
when folks say that to me, I make them understand it. I make it clear. Just because I am anti-Trump in no way makes me pro-Biden or pro anybody else. But that's all they bring
Yeah.
up. No matter what you bring up, you whether you're a Joe Biden supporter or not, that's the first thing they bring up.
Well,
Because it's the only defense they have.
I thought the HBCUs would be the first thing they bring up, but I stand corrected.
Well, that
Free for
Hillary's
all.
emails and the
Yes,
laptop. That's the
free.
top three.
But the laptop isn't in regards to racism, but yeah, I get you. Free for all in the comments said Trump denounced 15. He denounced white supremacy 15 times. So in other words, free for all is stating that Trump clearly
After he doubled down 10 times.
Yeah, I had to present his comment though, but you're right. When it came to the Charlottesville thing, it was like pulling teeth to get him to denounce that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, he did denounce it, but like you said, after doubling down on it a whole bunch of times, it was literally like pulling teeth. I think they pinned him up against an elevator or something in some high rise,
Exactly.
and finally got
Because
him to admit,
we
yeah, white supremacy is actually bad, but like, damn,
we
why
we all
why
we
was
all we all experienced the teleprompter Trump and the actual Trump. There's two different people
it?
there.
Well, what about the notion that President Biden cannot even give a speech without reading from a teleprompter? That's what a lot of MAGA folks believe, that Biden is incapable of his own independent thought. He needs to be reading from a teleprompter at all times.
President rep the teleprompter. You want to be clear and precise, and what do you want your message to get across? And that's rep the teleprompter. You want to be clear. You don't get it across by doing what Donald Trump does, because all he goes off into is same tangents.
Fair enough. And here's the video. I want you to hear this.
And her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy. I finished it. I finished it. You know what I mean. President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. Now we all want to get back to making America strong.
But it took him so long, once again, like you said, about pulling teeth. Out of all of that time, finally he came out at the end and said, and no apology or anything, by the way.
Yeah,
and he
nowhere
certainly
did he say I was wrong.
No, he didn't. And he also stated that, well, it started with Hillary Clinton and I finished it. But why did you feel the need to finish it at all? If you thought she was wrong, just let her do that. Why did you even get involved in it?
And I love whenever he has anything to do with Obama or black issues in general, he always has a few behind him in the shot. Just saying.
Well, I've heard those folks,
I didn't see no black people at that golf course today when he was at a secret meeting.
Yeah. I've heard that they get paid. I'll tell you myself, I'm being 6'6", 300 pounds. I'm pretty noticeable in the crowd. And I went to a Obama. He had an outdoor rally for his 2012 campaign, and he was in Iowa. And I went to Iowa to go to his rally, and the audience was probably 80% white, and they spotted me. You see the folks walking around, the security, and you see the campaign folks walking around with the ID on their neck, the big, huge, looks like a ID or something. It's kind of like a VIP pass, and they have them on. And I was way in the back. I didn't have the best position. They had bleachers outside. It was outside, bleachers and all of that. And they came and found me. And there was this little white girl. She was like, she walked up. She's like, do you want a better seat? Like, yeah. And she took me all the way up to the front. And
Wow.
it's strictly, yeah. So my guess is that's exactly what's happening at the Trump situation. I mean, like you said, there's probably only there's under 1% of African Americans there. And everybody there, less than 1% of them are African Americans. So if you
Yeah.
are in that crowd and you stand out, they're gonna, yeah, they certainly want to put you behind, like you see here in the picture. They want that. So my guess is, yeah, those people probably were snatched out of the crowd and brought forward. They did it at the Obama gathering. I mean, not only did they get me, but they tell you where to stand. They move you around. It
Oh
is
yeah.
certainly a shell game. They position you like that.
And I wanted to address the comment that they made about the January 6th, the insurrection and the
Okay,
jail time.
before you do that, because we
Hmm.
got a small audience here. I'll let you finish. But I got a guest who wants to get on with you. Now he's going to be politically on the opposing side. We'll keep it civil. Are you willing to
Okay.
do that? All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Free for all is a friend of the program, but he is right wing, so he doesn't take shit, just like I'm sure you don't. So I'll bring him on. Free for all. Good evening.
Hey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing it. You wanted to be on with Joby.
Yeah, I just wanted to come on to, kind of talk about what he's been talking about, what you're talking about, and kind of, give my own take.
Okay. Do you have any issues with what he stated so far?
No, I don't think I have a whole lot of issues with what he stated.
Okay, I thought you
But
were saying bring you on because I thought you were opposing what he was saying. That's what I kind of
well, no,
thought was happening.
I do have issues with what he's saying as far as insurrection. So, if you look back at the FBI investigation, the official FBI investigation clearly states that there was no insurrection, and the reason they state that there was no insurrection is because there wasn't enough organization, and to have insurrection. There's never been an insurrection without weapons, without guns.
There were
So
guns.
no, there were not guns. The only
Sure there were.
guns that were
Well,
present,
according to
Joby, the only
yeah.
guns that were present were those of law enforcement.
Well,
Mm-mm.
that's not what Trump was advised. The Secret Service tried to get Trump to leave and advised him that there were guns in the crowd, and Trump stated they're not here to hurt me. So the
Yeah.
Secret Service did tell Trump there's guns here.
Yep.
Right, but the official FBI investigation. Let's go back and look at and I can provide receipts for this. So let's go look at Reuters.com official FBI investigation. Go ahead and look at it. The official FBI investigation states that it was not insurrection.
Because
Because what?
you just said why didn't they say it was?
Because there was not enough organization.
Okay, so it was a badly organized insurrection.
Okay, so the only thing we actually can state is that it was what are the charges that they brought people up on? There was a lesser charge that people were brought up on, but it was not insurrection.
No, they're just
Insurrection.
insurrection was the act, not the crime.
No. Okay.
Insurrection by definition is an attempt to
Listen.
insurrection by definition is an attempt to turn over the government.
Okay, sedition was an actual charge that was brought.
Yeah.
Why was no one charged with insurrection?
Insurrection is a term to try to.
No, insurrection is an actual charge. No one was
Insurrection.
brought up on insurrection.
Insurrection is when people try to overturn the election or the government.
But there has to be a specific organization to actually have an insurrection charge. That's why no one has been brought up on the charge of insurrection.
I'm not aware.
Insurrection is a vast charge. There has to be a lot of organization to bring charges of insurrection.
Yeah, I'm not aware that you have to have a. First of all, you could an insurrection is a violent attempt to overthrow the government. You don't need
Right.
it.
And so within violent attempts, you have to have weapons, you have
They
to have
did.
organization, right? That there is a
Well, if you
reason
if
no
you're
one has been
using
brought up
wait,
on charges of
if you hang on a
insurrection.
second, if you're using bear spray and beating the hell out of people with flag posts and things like that, you
That's
do have
weapons.
weapons.
Lots
Yeah,
of them.
that's weapons.
I'm asking you why has no one caught an insurrection charge?
Well, I don't know. I'm like the caller. I mean, I'm like Joby. I don't know for certain if insurrection is an official charge.
It
I'd have to
is.
see that. Okay,
Well,
well, then go ahead.
I guess what I'm asking is if insurrection is the term that's being used throughout the media and politically, why are we talking about insurrection if no one in the whole January 6th debacle has been charged with insurrection? Why are we using that term?
Well, I could argue back that why are we saying that Antifa was there if no Antifa was charged? I mean, I get what your point is, but I'm arguing with you that I don't know if insurrection is a charge. You're saying it is. I'd have to see something to suggest that. I have not heard that.
I know it's a charge, and I know that insurrection is a thing. Like in order to charge with insurrection, you have to prove insurrection, and usually insurrection is a coup that comes from within a population to violently overthrow the government.
Okay, I want to.
Hold on. In order to violently overthrow a government, you have to have the means and the organization to violently overthrow a government. So if you do
Well,
not have
Wait, man.
weapons and organization in
I'm
order to
not.
violently overthrow a
No,
government,
man.
it's
No,
not an
I don't
insurrection.
believe
No,
you
no.
could. You don't have to. The attempt is the crime. Just
Right.
because you didn't have the proper weapons to do it, don't I mean you could try to kill a police officer with your hands and get shot. That don't mean you weren't trying to do it. Just because you
What
don't have
I'm
the proper weapons to
Okay.
do it.
Oh, but
Yeah,
but
I
my,
want you guys.
my
But wait a
argument
minute.
is that there's a reason that insurrection has not been an actual charge on
Okay.
anyone who has been charged.
All right. Well, let me play some for you guys. I want you guys to hear this, and I want to.
The Select Committee has learned about reports from outside the magnetometers and has obtained police radio transmissions identifying individuals with firearms.
And my internet would freeze right at that. I want to hear what she has to say. Give me a minute for my internet.
Including AR-15s.
Sure.
Near the ellipse on the morning of January 6th. Let's listen.
There's an individual who's in a tree. He's going to be a white male, about 6 feet tall, thin build, brown cowboy boots. He's got blue jeans and a blue jean jacket, and underneath the blue jean jacket, the complainant's bolts all up stock with AR-15. He's going to be with a group of individuals, about five to eight other individuals. Two of the individuals in that group at the base of the tree near the porta potties were wearing green fatigues, green olive drab style fatigues, about 5'8", 5'9", skinny white males, brown cowboy boots. They had Glock style pistols in their waistband. 8736 with a message that subject weapon on his right hip. After that, he's in the tree. Motor 1, make sure PPD knows they have an elevated threat in the tree south side of Constitution Avenue. Look for the Don't Tread on Me flag, American flag face mask, cowboy boots, weapon on the right side hip. I got 3 men walking down the street in fatigue with carrying AR-15. Copy at 14.
Cowboy boots, bald head, and a cowboy hat.
So maybe there was a couple of pea shooters there, huh?
Come on now. I mean,
Just saying.
he's got a cowboy hat on. He's goddamn terrorist. I mean, seriously. Hold on.
You gotta know, man. You have to know in your heart of hearts. Let me just ask you. You have to.
Existed, he would have been shot down immediately.
You have to know in your heart of hearts, if any of those insurrectionists got their hands on anybody in a suit in that building, didn't know who they were or what they were, how that would have went down.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if those individuals were identified in a tree with cowboy hats and cowboy boots, they would have been shot down
Wait a minute. Hold
immediately.
on. So free for all. Are you suggesting that
Yeah.
the radio traffic you heard they were just lying on the radio, just telling lies back and forth?
I do not I am not familiar with that radio traffic, but what I am telling you is I as a military veteran, if anybody with an AR-15 were that close to the U.S. Capitol building and identified in the trees by a Capitol police officer, they would have been shot dead immediately.
But you're not gonna shoot them dead when you know the whole crowd is pissed off
Sir,
and it's
sir,
likely to
sir, sir,
result.
sir. No one on January 6th was identified with a weapon, with a firearm. And if someone was identified with a firearm, especially multiple people identified in a tree with a firearm that close to the Capitol building, yes, sir, as a military veteran, I will tell you they would have been shot dead immediately.
Well, if you're actually at the protest on the lawn where you have a legal right to protest and you have a legal right to carry the firearm, you're not committing a crime at that point.
But I will tell you, if you are in a tree with an AR-15 that close to the Capitol building, you would have likely been shot at that point.
I can't. You're not going. I mean, you got hundreds of people surrounding all over the place. You can't just fire a shot at some dude in a tree and have his body fall. They're not going to do that. I mean, if you think,
okay.
Wait a minute. Wait. Let me respond to
Yes,
you.
sir.
Let me respond
Yes,
to
sir.
you. I'll let you respond, but let me get my point across. If you believe they would have took a shot at that guy in the tree, then you should also believe that when they're fighting police for the barricade and the horses out in front of the Capitol building, they would have shot them too. And they didn't do that.
Guy Raffitt of Texas was charged with bringing a handgun onto Capitol grounds. Christopher Michael Alberts of Maryland was also brought a handgun onto the ground. He was charged too. They were on the grounds with handguns. There were guns there, like it or not.
But were those handguns shown, or were they caught?
He was charged
after
with
the fact?
He was charged with it. They had handguns on him and on Capitol grounds.
Oh, okay, sure. What I'm saying is, from what I gather, from what I just heard, is that the guys in the trees were identified with apparently with AR-15s in the tree.
Yeah, but you have police out there that are grossly outnumbered, and they are.
Right.
It comes down, and generally they are a husband, a wife. They want to go home, and they fire a shot, they're dead. They know that.
Wait.
I ain't firing no shot. I'm going home.
You're telling me,
yep,
that the Capitol Police were just husband and wife teams.
No,
and
I'm just saying that. I'm just saying
that.
I'm not. No, I'm saying they were.
That there are people with AR-15s in the trees, and they're just like, oh, we're just gonna let that go because we're trying to go home to the kiddos,
let
right?
me free for all. If they are able to bear spray cops, beat them with flags and fire extinguishers, and not get shot, why do you believe the guy in the tree has to be somebody they would shoot? They're literally beating the hell out of cops and they're not shooting them. You got a guy that's being crushed in the door, that's bleeding and pleading for help, and they didn't open fire. So if they're letting all them get away with that, why do you think the AR-15 guy would be so hard to let him get away with?
Because the guy with the upper ground in the tree holds the high ground. He can shoot everybody out.
As opposed to the cop that is actively being crushed in between the door. You think the AR-15 guy is worse than that?
What, the one cop that was crushed in the door as the cops were letting people into the Capitol building?
Oh, Jesus.
You think that what was happening to that guy was a result of people being heave,
No, no,
hold, and
no, no. I do
deliberately
not.
trying to
I think they
overrun
were
the
two separate
cops?
events. I think they were two. No, no, no,
They,
no.
Yeah.
they damn right were. Of course they
Yeah.
were.
No, but I'm honest about that. Like I think they were two separate
Okay, all
events.
right. But
I think I think
can we
police
now
showed-
agree, free for all, can we now agree that there were some weapons at that protest?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there were definitely hand weapons at that event, and from what you just showed, there were people that had hand pistols at that event. You know,
Okay, all
I
right. I
don't
just
know
want
that
to
I
make
know
sure.
that,
So,
but snipers
oh,
from
I
the
get
tree, I would think that the U.S. Secret Service and the Capitol Police would have been able to take out tree snipers, right? Like as a veteran, if there are snipers in the trees, I would think that Capitol Police would have been able to handle such an event.
I think if they
well,
knew, I think if they
go ahead.
knew an insurrection was coming, they would have been more prepared. But this happened at the spur of the moment, apparently, right then and there. They were ill prepared. That's why it took so long for backup to show up.
Right,
Hours.
All right.
right.
Hey
Well, the
guys,
point you're making,
I don't fully disagree with you. I think what happened on January 6th was a culmination of a lot of things that have been coming to a head in this country. I think that we are extremely divided in this day and age, and I think there are a lot of things that we need to come
Well,
together on.
I agree, but I have to call you out on one point. The difference I have when you say the with January 6th and what happened was because of there's so much angst in this country. What happened on January 6th was based on a single man's lie.
What's that?
I
That's
was
what
just,
happened on January 6th.
and that's what I was about to say. Free for all. When you said that you think what happened on the 6th was a culmination of a bunch of things coming to a head.
No.
I was going to say the same thing that Joby just said: is that if Trump hadn't suggested that he won the election, January 6th doesn't happen. That only happened because Trump claimed he won the election.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to probably just bow out in the next 20 seconds and say that I don't disagree that election fraud has taken place not only last year or in the last 2 years, but I'm going to go ahead and take it one step further and say that election fraud has taken place in both probably the last 4 elections, and it
Okay,
has
I won't doubt that.
and it has gone. Hold on, and it has gone both ways. How about that?
Okay. And that
Can you
sounds a
agree to
lot
that?
better than having, and you're probably right. And that sounds a hell of a lot better than having a president get up there and say, I won by a landslide. Just come out and say, in a country of 300 and some million people, there's no such thing as a perfect election. I appreciate that.
Election fraud is rampant in this country, both Democratic and Republican. It is rampant, and we
Okay.
need to fix it. We need to fix it. That is my that's my final that's my final talking point. Hey,
All right.
handsome liberal, I always love talking to you, man. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Later,
Not a
Free.
problem.
Joby,
Come on back
thanks
through.
for talking, man.
All
No
right.
problem. Take care, bro.
Okay. All right. Okay, Joby, I'm gonna move it on, but I appreciate you also allowing that. I don't normally do that, but you guys kept it civilized, so good talk. And we listen. We got one person, if
Yes.
not more, but one person that finally admitted on the right that listen, there were weapons there because he
Yeah.
obviously was adamantly against it, and that proof there were weapons there. Good talk, Joby.
Baby steps.
Yeah,
Later,
baby
man.
step. Right. Catch you later. Okay, I'll go right back to the box. Yeah, for
A few folks that are in this live, we got a small crowd here tonight, but there's a lot of folks that keep perpetuating the notion that during the insurrection or the protest or whatever you call it, no one had weapons. I believe that evidence there shows that a lot of folks that are perpetuating that did not watch the January 6th hearings because it's hard to believe that they would just be on the radio in the middle of a major protest, just lying about descriptions and AR-15s. No, there were guns there. All right, going to Modern Colonizer, friend of the program.
So, good evening, Modern.
Hey, good evening. How's it going?
It's going all right. So you're not. Are you in the? Were you in the camp as well that there were no weapons there on January 6th?
I never really gave it much thought. I mean, I didn't see any video of it, but so what if there was?
Well, folks are saying that appreciate the cap and gown. Thank you. Folks were saying that it wasn't that violent, a love fest. You know, it couldn't have been an insurrection because nobody had weapons. That's why it's coming up.
So real quick, definition of insurrection. So 18 U.S.C. Code 2383. This is from Cornell Law. Whoever incites, sets foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And here's the strong one, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. So,
okay.
I would also like to ask, do you think George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were, by definition, insurrectionists?
Well, George Washington being the first president of the United States, we didn't have a government. It formed under him. So I would certainly think that George Washington could not have been an insurrectionist because it wasn't even a law yet. I mean, the Constitution and everything formed while he was in office. So certainly not George Washington. In regards to Abraham Lincoln, he was dealing with the Confederacy, trying to not only overthrow the government, but completely separate from it. So I don't believe Abraham Lincoln was an insurrectionist, but I believe he may have been dealing with some. They actually did set the White House on fire, I believe, during that time, or tried to. So he was dealing with insurrectionists in regards to Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, I'll rephrase it. Do you think the English considered George Washington and Thomas Jefferson insurrectionists? Those were the people in charge at the time.
No. No. If you want to suggest that an insurrection is a violent attempt to overthrow the government, the colonists in regards to George Washington, they were not trying to go to England and overthrow the government. They were trying. It was almost like the police come to your house to serve a warrant, and you're fighting back with the police, not wanting to pay taxation without representation, and things like that. But they were not trying to overthrow the king in England. No, I don't think that would have been insurrectionists.
No, they overthrew the English government that was in charge here.
Yeah, if you want to come to, like I said, it's like coming to your house and serving a search warrant and you fighting back with the police. It's a crime, but it's not an insurrection.
Well, I guess what I want to get at, whatever term we want to use, someone in here is throwing out rebellion, some would say sedition, insurrection, whatever term we want to put on it, you're only a criminal if you lose. But since George Washington and the other patriots won, we now have our own country, right? And so this idea that on January 6th, let's just hypothetically say they kicked in the doors of the Capitol and they just found like the secret table that we all think is running the whole world, right? And we see like on the writing, just, whatever evidence you need, right? There'd be heroes. They'd be heroes,
yeah.
Right?
I get your point, and I agree with you. I agree with you that the victor gets to write history. Just like if Germany had won, the Holocaust would have never happened. They would have wrote history in a way of suggesting that the Jewish were a rebellion and they had to take them out. The Holocaust would have never happened. And you're right. If the Confederate South had won the war, history would be written in a way that, slavery was some type of deal between the Africans and it came voluntarily. The victor is going to write out the atrocities in history. And even though the Confederates have actually lost the war, because our country still sided with them for being Americans and did not interfere in their writing of history, they still wrote out a lot of the atrocities. So I do agree with you that the victors are going to write out any of their wrongdoings.
Right. And, someone in the comments said they were trying to stop the political process. You've talked many times. Why is January 6th always compared to BLM protest, right? And you've heard me say to you before, it's two groups of people taking their grievance to their government in their own way. If Black people feel like they've been wronged in this country and they're not part of that political process anymore, then they have every right to protest and voice their frustrations, sometimes violently. This country
Yeah.
was founded
I do
violently.
agree. Yeah, I
Not
agree with you once again. The Black Lives Matter protest and the January 6th protest do have a lot of parallels. I do agree with that. And I've said before that Trump supporters now are starting to sound a lot like Black Lives Matter. They're complaining about due process. The Black Lives Matter want to defund the police. They want to defund the FBI. They are sounding a hell of a lot alike nowadays.
And if they sound alike, why are they treated so crazy? It's like
Because
if
good question. Because the MAGA folks were calling Black Lives Matter, claim that they want to defund the police stupid and referring to Black Lives Matter as a terrorist outfit. And now that they're going through the same shit, well, why don't you understand our plight? Well, because you were dispelling their plight so badly.
right. I don't know if I would say that that's how. I know that that's not how I feel. I don't know if I would say that's not how the majority of Republicans
Well,
are, right?
Look at any right wing media outlet and look how they speak of Black Lives Matter. It is horrendous. They're a terrorist group. They point out the corrupt fundraising from the Black Lives Matter organization, not the movement. They point out how corrupt they are. They make it sound like cities were burning for years on end. I mean, there is nothing positive about Black Lives Matter being said on right wing media outlets. It's all negative, like 100% negative.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I won't
Yeah.
disagree with that at all. Um, I would submit to you that my opinion is that you know when the rioting got out of hand, when the protesting turned into rioting, right, and you're burning
Mhm.
down businesses or their homes or what have you, that's crossing a line. When you have
Right.
administrators of the
True.
organization falsely handling money, then you're out of line, right? But the original
Right.
premise, Black Lives Matter, we do not feel like we were being included in this political process. We feel like we were being oppressed. We feel like we were being shot by police at an exponential rate. Those are legitimate grievances that you are absolutely
Yeah.
allowed to street to and voice your grievance to the government. You know what I mean? So
100% agree. But the
anybody who
problem
opposes,
is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, anybody who opposes those basic fundamentals of how BLM started is a fucking bigot and needs to just not be invited to the barbecue. You know what I mean?
And but that represents a large portion of the right wing party. All lives matter. The only purpose all lives matter exists is to mock Black Lives Matter. You will never hear all lives matter if somebody doesn't talk about Black Lives Matter. That's the only reason it exists. So when the right wing, as you're pointing out, when MAGA believed that they were having a legitimate grievance against the government, yeah, you're not going to get any sympathy from Black Lives Matter because you've been dispelling their grievance for so long. In fact, they'll tell you in regards to Black Lives Matter, what was the right telling Black Lives Matter? All you got to do is comply and nothing will happen to you. They were completely dispelling Black Lives Matter as simply making it up out of thin air. If you didn't fight back, nobody would be messing with you. So yeah, the minute MAGA started getting in trouble, yeah, you're not going to get any sympathy from Black Lives Matter because they treated them like shit.
Right. I won't disagree with that. And to be fair, I mean, I don't even remember the guy's name, but about 2, maybe 3 months ago, the guy involved in the car chase and got shot like 80 times, right? And me and you discussed that one, right? There's a lot of shootings that have made the news of so-called unarmed Black men that you can't say you didn't write your own book there. And the ones that have video, I mean, like, hey, you made your bed there, right? And
Right.
you've heard me speak on many occasions. George Floyd, that was a murder. That guy had
Yeah.
surrendered to the police. He was complying. He was not holding court on the street. I've always said, if you want to hold court on the street, don't get mad when Judge shows up, right? But,
Right.
so when someone voices an opinion of, well, don't get in a high-speed pursuit. Don't get the cops called there in the first place. Don't get in a high-speed pursuit and get mad when you get shot. Like,
Yeah,
that's
I
not,
agree with all
that's
that.
not
I agree that I agree running from the cops and fighting back. But I'm talking about people who exercise their constitutional rights. Like, I don't have to let you search my car without a warrant, or I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to show you my ID. They're talking about them folks also. If you just comply with the officer, you wouldn't be going through this. A lot of African Americans have met horrible endings, not necessarily from fighting like George Floyd or somebody, but some of them just simply said, I don't want to talk to you, or I
right.
don't have to show you my ID, or what's your name and badge number, and the cop just flipped out on them. It's a lot of folk, or filming police also. Filming police in public has caused a lot of folks to get their ass kicked, and that's a constitutionally protected right.
And I will die on that hill with them that you absolutely should not be harassed by cops. And if you say, I don't have to give you my ID, and it turns into a physical altercation, you should be getting some money. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of those, you should just comply, just show them your ID. They're just doing their job. Because you know what? There are some guys that use the excuse just doing their job, and we freaking hung their ass at Nuremberg. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
this
Well,
idea that,
let me ask you this in the comments. I want to ask you, what do you think of this? This is Wolverine. He's MAGA. He's a friend of the program. His comment says, Black Lives Matter comes down my block. Black lives will splatter. How do you view that?
sounds like first-degree murder because you just put it in text, dumbass.
Okay, continue. I just wanted to point that out.
No, let's say there was protesting going down on my street, right? You better be aware I'm going to put up a strong front and let you know this is the wrong damn house. But I don't own that street. I might pay the taxes that maintain it, but you have a constitutionally protected right to be there. If it's past quiet hours, now the cops can get involved. If you start destroying property, now the cops get involved. But if all you're doing is walking down the street, hold up a sign, even if you're making what we would, even the cops would call a disturbance, right? It's a constitutionally protected activity. And if you think the Constitution applies to you and not people you disagree with, man, I got news coming for you, man. That is not how it works. You've heard me say many times, even if it benefits you when it's wrong, you got to be against it. Like I've said, stacking the or all Republican or all Democrat, like you have to be against that, So, I mean, there's just things in America that I think people are just fundamentally twisted on. They got a magnet next to their moral compass. It's okay to do these wrong things on whatever side of the political aisle you are on. It's okay to do wrong so long as it's benefiting me. But as soon as it stops benefiting, then, I'm going to hold up that Constitution. Like, man, whatever,
Yeah.
But
all right, fair point. All right, Colin. All right, Modern. I do got to move it on. I think we agreed far more than we disagreed tonight.
Yeah, we do, man. Appreciate you having me on. Have a good night.
Absolutely. Catch you on the next one. Okay, going back to the box real quick. Looking in the comments before I move. MAGA always talking out of their necks like we don't carry guns too. All right, fair point. But yeah, that video footage I showed, I think that kind of gets at least the viewers here of understanding that there certainly were fires there at the January 6th protest. So, okay, good afternoon. I can't pronounce the name now. I'm looking here, but can you hear me? Okay. That is the second time that's happened on the program where a caller was holding on and literally went on the phone. I just wanted to get the second cycle of breathing to confirm that. Let's go with Mr. Full Service is back. All right. And that caller, by the way, I would have loved to have talked to him, but apparently he was asleep holding on the phone. Full Service, we can see you for certain. Good evening to you, sir.
What's going on, Liberal? How you feeling, man?
None at all. I appreciate you coming through. Is this our first time talking?
Second
time. All right. What's on your mind this evening?
So, of course, as usual, I like to just kind of listen and pay attention.
Nothing wrong with that.
Most people don't know that, yes, people were charged with firearms January 6th. This is absolutely true. Most of those people were also carrying legally. But when you cross
and I, let me interrupt you. And I'll let you finish. Exactly the point I made to that caller in regards to shooting somebody in the tree. They were not doing anything criminal. If he's out at the protest with a gun, he legally can have it there. So you can't shoot him. But go ahead.
Correct. They were not brandishing their firearm. They weren't threatening with their firearms. They had their firearms on their hip. Most people don't even know one of the men carried 2 pistols on him. This is the same guy who had Molotov cocktails in his truck. So, yes, there were absolutely people there for the absolute wrong reasons. We need to go ahead and get that out.
Yeah.
And
they also found
reason,
somebody was leaving bombs in the area.
Correct. These were preset, by the way. The bombs were set there the night before, which leads you to think that, guess what? This attack was definitely pre-planned. It wasn't anything Trump said. This was a pre-planned attack. Yeah.
But it only happened because of Trump claiming he won the election.
So let me ask you a question. And I know you can be really fair about this.
Okay.
We've heard 4 or 5 years of Democrats claiming nothing but Trump was an illegitimate president. He stole this election. There was Russian collusion, everything else, right? Now,
I heard Hillary Clinton suggesting that the Russians helped him win, but even Hillary Clinton conceded. I don't know if we said he was illegitimate.
No, she did. You need to go back and read actually what she said. She did not concede. Nor did she also tell Joe Biden, make sure you do not concede for any reason whatsoever if you lose. That's Hillary.
Well, he didn't. Okay, all right, keep going.
Now, we heard for 4, 5, 6 years Russian collusion. The FBI.
Now that is true.
Yes,
yeah, that's true.
FBI in 2017, according to their own notes, knew that Hillary Clinton had made up the Russian collusion, that there was nothing tying Trump to Russian collusion. This is their notes.
Well, that's not. Wait a minute. Here's the problem. Wait a minute. When Mueller decided not to prosecute Trump, he even stated himself that he could not prove that Trump was innocent. So I don't know about saying that Hillary Clinton made it up.
Here you go. I'll go ahead and show it to you because most people aren't aware of this. So in the FBI notes, where they were even before the Steele dossier with the NARA, all this other stuff, they said in their notes that there was nothing tying Trump to the Russians. Because at first, remember what they were claiming, that the Russians changed the numbers at the last minute. But then, of course, that was debunked. The numbers never changed. Here you go. So, I love having to do this, but because most people of what's been going on with the FBI for a long time. So Mueller first in 2019 says that he finds no collusion with Russia whatsoever. Now there's Trump's special counsel in 2017 had already investigated into no interference whatsoever. Mueller himself says, and John Durham as well, the special prosecutor, said that they knew there was nothing tying. You can go back to the New York Post from 2018, and they link every single note from there. The article's name is Dems Knew and Did Nothing to Stop the Russian Collusion Hoax from the New York Post. And they leave the links. They show you the FBI files from 2017, everything else.
Okay.
So, once again, we heard for how many years about Russian collusion? It was a stolen election. It was an illegitimate president. Now, when Trump says that there was inconsistencies, and you have to admit.
Trump said he won by a landslide.
He said he won by a landslide. And what do we see?
Why?
Let me ask you, were there broken chains of command in Atlanta or down in Georgia?
I can't say for sure, but let's say yes. Just to answer I'll just give you that. Let's say yes. Continue.
So you have broken chains of command in Atlanta or down in Georgia. You have literally over 100% of people in nursing homes voting in Wisconsin. There are
Okay.
inconsistencies that have happened in every single state, yet it is not really being investigated nor it's being talked about. You can talk. People can say that Dinesh D'Souza was off his rocker. I even heard you talking about. Well, it's
Yeah, he
not.
was wrong.
It,
Yeah,
it's
the
not a
next
hundred.
D'Souza. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, where you said it's not 100% accurate. They can
Yeah,
get
it
you
wasn't
with.
even close to
They
100%
can get you
accurate.
within 25 feet, right?
Say that again.
That's what you were saying. They can get you within
Yeah,
25 feet.
let me give you my problem with Dinesh D'Souza. When
Go ahead.
you go, to me, it's like the police only go into black neighborhoods to prove that blacks commit all the crime. Dinesh D'Souza did not go to northern Wisconsin, southern Georgia, the outskirts of Phoenix and Arizona. He went to areas that were Democratic areas to show cheating, as if all of the Republican areas were 100% fair. He didn't even look at them. He went to Detroit. What about northern Michigan? How do you know everything was kosher up there? You didn't go.
Have you
So go
ever
ahead.
thought about it like this? And I want you to really think about this. If you were really, just let's take, for example, let's just say, if you were going to steal an election and you were going to cover your tracks, how smart would it be to use marginalized and black communities? That way, if anyone says anything, you can claim racism.
I suppose you could use that for a plan, but then I would ask you back in return if you were going to lie in regards to stealing an election. How smart would it be to only go to Democrat areas to avoid getting any improprieties discovered in Republican areas? Only go to Democrat areas to do the investigation. That way, if there's any cheating in Republican areas, you won't even be around to discover it. So I could also rebut that.
But that's not really a rebuttal, because even if he went to the Democratic only areas and he finds inconsistencies, that is still proof of cheating, is it not?
Yeah, just like if you go only to black neighborhoods and you find criminals, that is proof of crime, but that doesn't mean they're the only ones committing the crimes. You're
But
only looking for them.
but it's still proof of cheating.
I'm not disagreeing, but you don't understand what I'm saying. What I'm telling you is in a country of
No, no,
330 million, wait a minute. In a
no
country
proof.
of 330 million people, they're always going to be cheating. I get that. I'm not saying that the Democrats were 100% honest. I'm saying that he specifically only targeted Democrats to investigate, meaning that the Republicans' dishonesty is not going to be caught.
Shoot, listen, I'll be the first one to say it. I've been checking out this election integrity and fraud. There has absolutely been Republicans, people who voted for Trump, who got caught up in charge, just like there have been Democrats who voted for Biden and got caught up and charged. So when people sit there and say this was the most secure and safe election, it's BS. It's absolute
I
BS.
can I can work with your statement that you have no right to say it's the most secure election. What I can totally disagree with vehemently is Trump getting up there and saying he won by a landslide. There is absolutely no proof of that. Why would he say that?
Because he is a narcissist and he actually believes it.
But he's the president of the country, and you see what happened when people thought he won. That was irresponsible, narcissistic or not. It's irresponsible as hell.
Can we agree that Trump is absolutely a narcissist? And he really believes that, yes, he won this election by a landslide.
But do you
Did,
think that was wrong for him to say that?
did he break a record? Let me ask you a question.
Did
Did
you
he break?
think? Do you think it was wrong for him to say he won by a landslide?
I don't. I would have questioned him as a weak leader if he had not. But let's be real. Did he or did he not break the record for most votes by a sitting president?
Yeah, so did Biden.
And Biden broke Obama's record.
Yeah. You want the president to get up there and say he won by a landslide before the votes are counted. You actually don't think there's any
What
problem with doing that.
is go up there and say there is inconsistencies. They need to be investigated. If it comes out that there was nothing behind it, then absolutely he steps away. And he
What
tries.
happened to getting, wait a minute, what happened to getting up there and being honest with the people? If you want to say there's inconsistencies and you found them, that's being honest. Saying you won by a landslide is a flat out lie. You don't have any data or information, it's particularly when he said it on election night, and you're okay with that?
Let me ask you a question. Where were majority of the drop boxes?
I can't even answer that.
So you tell me why it was about 7 to 8 in Democrat, like heavy Democrat areas. Why was that?
Because the
That's weird.
Republicans were being told by President Trump to not even use them. So there was no
This,
need for them in Republican
this
areas.
before this is before the election or anything else happened. This is how they planned it out to put those boxes in these heavy Democrat ran areas. Correct?
You're giving me impropriety. I've already given you that in a country of 330 million people, there's going to be impropriety. You're not giving me the
Yeah.
landslide part. I'm trying to get from you why Trump said he won by a landslide. I'm trying to figure out why that made sense. If you want to
Once
say
again,
that drop boxes or all of this stuff, give me the landslide part. Thank you for the cap and gown.
it just comes down to absolutely what he had witnessed, what his crew, what anybody else.
He witnessed winning by a landslide.
You're not catching what I'm saying.
No, I'm
There
not. Throw it harder. Throw it harder.
He had his people telling him, this is what happened in this state. This many votes was flipped. This is what was going on. These are thousands of affidavits. These are court proceedings, everything else, telling this man that, yes, you won this state, you won this county, you won this county, you won this county. They told him he won by a lot. He believed it, he said it, and there you go.
Here's the problem I have with what you just said. You realize how many people from Trump's camp told him to stop tweeting, told him that he lost the election after the election was over with. All of a sudden, this one point, they told him he won. He believed that, but all the other stuff they tell him, he don't listen to. In other words, I'll listen to my people when they tell me something I want to hear. But if they tell me something I don't want to hear, I don't give a shit about them. That's what you're telling me?
Have you met the man? Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm fine with all of that. What I have a problem with is you suggesting that it is okay for him to get up there and say he won by a landslide. That's where I have the issue with. Let me play something for a second. I want you to hear this because that's where I have a problem with.
And can report that Hillary Clinton has called Donald Trump to concede the race. She has called Donald Trump to say that she will not be president, and I'm not sure the exact words, but probably to congratulate President-elect Donald Trump. So that has happened in the last few moments.
And you're telling me that never took place?
Who, Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Go look. Go look to see what she said to him. Please go look.
You're telling me she never conceded the election, correct?
When she told him that she's out, she said, "You are the illegitimate president. You were elected by the Russians," and she walked away from the man. So you tell me that's
okay. I'm real curious now because you got me you got me wanting to actually hear what you're talking about because that's not the way that I interpreted it. I mean, I heard the woman concede, but you're telling me otherwise. So
Hillary Clinton about to appear in New York, where you see Tim Kaine, her vice presidential running mate. Let's listen in. She will concede to Donald Trump.
Hillary Clinton has been and is a great history maker in everything she has done as a civil rights lawyer and First Lady of Arkansas and First Lady of this country and Senator. And
this is the actual concession.
She has made history in a nation that is good at so many things, but that has made it uniquely difficult.
I don't want to hear him
for a
talk.
woman
Let me
to
get up
be
to her.
elected to federal office. She became the first major party nominee.
I don't want to hear because I mean this thing is a little bit long, but I want to hear what you said.
105 days that we've had with this fantastic couple of public servants and all of you for the rest of our life. I'll just say this: Hillary and I know well the wisdom and the words of William Faulkner.
Give me a second. I'm really curious if what you're saying is.
Thank you. all. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, enough applause. She lost. All this clapping, the bitch lost.
The problem is people actually believe that she won. She believes she won.
Okay,
Which is
all
why.
right. Well, let's see what she has to say.
Please do.
Thank you, my friends. Thank you.
Okay, get them.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for being here. And I love you all, too. Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for. And I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share.
Okay, you don't hear any concession in any of this? She's clearly admitting she lost. What am I missing?
Well, what you're missing is her interview maybe a day or so later, where she says, oh, you can run the best campaign, you can run this, and you can still have the election stolen from you. On
But
every
you said she didn't
news,
concede. She's
that
clearly
is
doing it on
definitely,
global TV. You're talking
you
about an interview. Wait. You're talking about something that happened.
while
Wait,
still
wait,
playing.
wait. You're talking about something that happened days later. She's doing it on global TV right here. You're not. You don't see
Listen,
any concession in this.
can you concede while still claiming that you were robbed and that it was stolen from you? Answer that.
Okay, I don't know what she said days later that you pointed out, but I hear a concession right here. And this is on TV in front of everybody.
I'm asking you, can you actually concede if you are still claiming that it is illegitimate and that it was stolen from you?
I don't hear her saying that to the public. She's making it clear she lost. This is clear as day. How much clearer can you get?
I want her to say that the election was legal, that it was actually fair, and that she lost. But
Right.
No surprise. 3 years
November,
after the historic
here we go.
election of 2016,
November 9th,
she's still
2016.
grappling with defeat. How are you doing now, and what are the metrics by which you know how you're doing on any given day? Personally, I'm doing well, and having my grandchildren, and especially a new 2-month-old grandson, has been a gift beyond measure. I feel very blessed. I feel good. But I can't deny that a big part of me cares deeply about what's happening in the country, and what I fear is the damage that's being done to our future, the damage being done to our values, our instincts, that I can help those who are... It doesn't come up much on any campaign except for Donald
She talks too
Trump's.
much.
Lock her up is still a big popular line. I believe he knows he's...
I'm laughing at 808, 804 bread.
You
All
know.
right, listen, man, I gotta move it on.
Look,
Oh.
all I'm going to say is absolutely. Hillary Clinton, a day or two later, sat there on the night claiming that it was an illegitimate president, that it was a stolen election, that she never lost.
All right.
So you cannot sit there and can say that she conceded when she's still saying that, and even to this day, she still says it. Donald Trump was an illegitimate president, right?
All right. To me, what you're saying is akin to pleading guilty to a judge and then going in the hood and saying, I didn't do the crime. As far as I'm concerned, you pled guilty in court. She's on national TV conceding. I don't care what she said a couple of days later. She conceded the race on global TV. That's all I need. I don't care what she said later on. You pled guilty in court. So she's saying I lost. I don't care what happened after that.
But the reason why I even came on here, I wanted to ask you one question.
Real quick, go ahead.
This is just my question for you. Now, why is it, do you think, that the Hunter Biden laptop and Ashley Biden's diary were suppressed 3 weeks before the election? And this came from the FBI and the Democrats themselves.
You trust the FBI and Democrats now? Maybe they're lying. If they said something about Trump, you wouldn't trust them, would you? The
They
FBI
are the
also
ones who
said Trump was
they are
involved
the
in it.
ones who
Wait a minute.
buried it.
The
They
FBI is
they
also
buried
saying
it.
Trump, the FBI is saying Trump is guilty of espionage. You believe the FBI now?
The FBI buried the story.
The FBI is saying that Trump has classified documents in his house. When are we believing and not believing the FBI?
You're not catching what I'm saying.
I'm catching
The
it and throwing it
FBI,
back at you.
the FBI got caught in 4K. Even Mark Zuckerberg came up on Joe Rogan's and said that they approached him. They knew about Hunter Biden's laptop and tying Joe Biden as a vice president to the dealings in the Ukraine. Yet they still sat there and buried the story. 3 weeks,
Well,
they buried pertinent information.
my answer to you is
So why did they do
my
that?
answer to you in regards to what the FBI has said. It has got to be either we're going to believe the testimony of the FBI or not. If we're going to believe what they said about Hunter Biden, then we're going to believe what the FBI said about President Trump as well. I don't want us picking and choosing when to be. I believe the FBI in regards to Hunter Biden. I believe it was politically oriented, but I'm not going to pick and choose when this group is telling the truth and when they're telling a lie. If the FBI is correct about Hunter Biden, they're also correct about Trump. So I'm just letting you do that, but I got to move it on, man.
That made no sense.
I'm made no sense to you. I'm just the point I'll make again, and I see folks in the comments clearly got it, is that you cannot pick and choose when you believe the FBI. He's pointing out that the FBI stated that the Hunter Biden story was covered right before an election to potentially help Joe Biden. I believe that's probably true. I believe that they got politicized. However, I am telling him and anyone else who's watching, you cannot believe the FBI when they're anti-Biden and then say they are lying and full of shit when they're anti-Trump. That's not how it works. It's the same freaking group of people. If they're believable on Biden, they're believable on Trump. That's the only point I'm trying to make. If they're saying that the Biden story was covered up and you believe that, when they say that Trump had classified documents in his house that he had no business being in possession of, that's true too. That's all I'm saying. You don't jump up, well, now you're talking about Trump. Now we think your ass should be defunded. Get back to talking about Hunter. I don't buy that. Let me go back to the box. Dan Trail, I believe we're and Hillary Clinton conceded. I think that's clear as day. Dan Trail, go. You're on mute. I see you, but you're on mute, Dan Trail.
I said
Unmute
he
your
was
device. There you go.
okay. I said he was reaching harder than a short arm kid in a cookie jar. I
I
didn't
was
see
letting him
nobody
give it. I
reach.
was letting him.
I didn't see nobody reach that hard.
Yeah. Hey, I always enjoy letting the folks talk. I don't censor or block him. I gave him plenty of time to get his point across. But yeah, he's seen it a different way. That's fine. But like I said, I'm often surprised that when it comes to Biden or Democratic stories, how all of a sudden members of the deep state like Mark Zuckerberg become a statement of facts, but when they say something about Trump, they can't be trusted. All of a sudden he's quoting the FBI. I thought I heard the FBI was completely corrupt, but because they're pointing out Biden, all of a sudden they're a prayer book. No,
I have, and this was hard for me because I have had conversations with it. He's in my circle, and I didn't realize that you could put a video of Hillary Clinton succeeding on a national level, on national TV, and you say, but the other day on Tucker Carlson,
he was still trying to say what you see right in front of you was not actually happening. And by the way, Free For All in the comments is suggesting that the previous caller waxed me, which is why I cut him off. I gave him man like 20 minutes. Free For All. Damn, I mean, I gave him plenty of time to get his point across. It ain't like I gave him 2 minutes to talk. We chopped it up for about 20 minutes. I mean, I'm as fair as I can be, but damn, I mean, I got other people in the box. But yeah, listen, Hillary Clinton conceded. I don't understand how he could watch that and say, well, what about what she did 2 or 3 days later? Like, she's clearly conceded in front of everybody. It got her husband standing. Even her husband is standing right there on national TV conceding. And he was willing to throw all of that out for something I guess he's saying she said a few days later.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Anything
mean,
that
to
he can
me,
find that's gonna prove his point, that's what he was going to do. I'm not gonna call him no name. You know, we both are on the classier side of things. I'm disappointed when you played that and he just looked right past it. I was like, and when I talk to him, I'm gonna tell him, hey man, I'm disappointed in you.
well, I enjoy talking to folks, whether I agree or disagree, but I am just for tonight alone. It makes me happy that I got a much larger monitor now that people can clearly see, because this is the second person just tonight alone where they had a certain mindset. And the other guy was suggesting that there were no weapons at the January 6th hearing. And the video clearly proved that wrong. And now here, this gentleman is saying Hillary Clinton did not concede the election. And once again, I think this proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that she certainly, I mean, not only did she concede, she congratulated Trump, said she hopes he's a good president. She used words like, we didn't win. I mean, like, how much more does she have to say?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she has to say, they want Hillary to say, Donald Trump whooped my butt. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They want to get,
I agree with that.
They want to bend over and almighty Trump. Let me stop.
That's what it sounded. I tend to think that, yeah, you're probably right. They wanted her to give him some kind of resounding complimentary. I don't know. But she made it clear that I didn't win. It didn't turn out the way I wanted. I mean, she used every synonym for losing that you could think of. And he still was. She didn't concede. Like, what else is she supposed to say?
Exactly. And I don't want to get off subject, but I am sick of hearing about Hunter Biden as if he ran for president. I mean, come on now. We have a history in the United States of presidents that have unsavory children. It's in there. It's there. If it's proven and he did something illegal, he should go to jail too. Just like Bush's daughters. They were out there on opiates. I mean,
well, the thing about Hunter Biden is, and I do believe he used his dad's name to get paid. However, and I've said this before, if your child or my child used our name to get paid, or if we did it and used our parents' name to get paid, they would pardon us. Trump is not, I mean, Hunter Biden is not going to jail as long as his father is president. Trump would pardon his kids under the same circumstance, and probably you or I would too. I mean, it's not like someone got murdered or some child was a victim of assault or something like that. He just got paid. He just got paid. That's what they do in Washington. He used influence to get paid. That doesn't come close to some of the other stuff they're talking about.
I find it hypocritical that the same squad whose candidate, when he won, walked in and gave his daughter, his sons, their husbands, spouses, kinfolk, everybody get a job.
Yeah, and I think he got his son-in-law a job in the White House against the FBI. The FBI would not even approve. I think it was Jared Kushner or one of them would not even said that the guy, because of his overseas dealings, would not qualify for an FBI approval to gain access to the White House. And Trump actually made the FBI give the guy access anyway. So the guy was not even good enough for the FBI to suggest he would pass a background check. And yeah, Trump gave it to him anyway. So yeah, I don't know where to go with that, man. I don't know. But that last caller was interesting. I mean, he was a perfect example of I mean, we're not going to agree. I mean, he had counterpoints for everything, including a video of her conceding.
Well, some people, see, I am the most fair person across the board, but some people, they say things and I just look at them and my grandmother's voice just pops in my head. Slower than molasses flowing uphill.
Well, I'm looking in the comments at Defend 37. He said, last caller, look, master, they running. Oh my God. Look, master, they running. Okay, fair point. All right, well, listen, man, I'm gonna move it on. I ain't gonna be on here too much longer, but I do appreciate you coming through. All right, have a good one. Okay,
You too.
And you too, man. All right, let me see if I can get my damn. Okay, I want to Hillary Clinton thing again because I didn't even remember her conceding so definitively.
He will be a successful
Because I want to, just in case somebody else says it never happened again.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country. But I feel pride and gratitude for this wonderful campaign that we built together. This vast, diverse, creative.
Okay, we don't need to hear her compliment herself on her campaign, but yeah, how much more of a concession speech do you need? I mean, now I don't know what she said a few days later, which is what he's pointing out. Maybe she did bring up Russia or something a few days later. Like I said, it's very similar to pleading guilty in a court of law and then going back to the hood and saying, I got railroaded in court and the judge was not fair. But you pleaded guilty in court, and that's what goes down on the record. Nobody gives a shit what you're telling your neighbors in the hood. And that's where this is where he's talking about what Hillary Clinton is doing. Doesn't matter what she's saying. She got on TV and said she lost. Nobody cares about the follow-up. You said you lost on television right in front of Old Glory itself, right in front of your husband. You are, not only did you say you lost, but you wished the other man the best. You even wished Trump the best. That's a hell of a lot more than what Donald Trump has done for Joe Biden. It's not even remote. It's not even the same universe of what President Trump has done for Joe Biden. So if you want to say that this right here doesn't qualify Hillary Clinton as conceding, well then shit, where do you put Trump? Where do you rank Trump in that whole ordeal? All right, let me go to Shantae in the box there. Shantae 77. Where is Trump's concession speech? It has never happened. Shantae, good evening.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You been listening in?
Yes, I was waiting for you to come on, and I think I missed the first hour, but I really wanted you to touch on more of why the lawyers won't take Trump's case, because I had seen, I don't know, maybe we saw the same TikTok of there's this woman that I watch, and she's like, what prominent lawyer wouldn't want to take on the case of a century of a ex-president who is being wronged by the government, and knowing that he is absolutely innocent, that there's no reason why, who wouldn't take that case? That would make or break their career. I mean, they would be held at the highest regards if he was so innocent. So why aren't any of these well-known lawyers or why are they not taking his case?
Yeah, and my guess is, as an attorney, well, first of all, you want to win. You want to be victorious for your client. So because that goes on your record and that helps you gain future business. If you want to defend Trump or some other high-profile client, being able to say you helped that client achieve victory is obviously very beneficial for your firm. So the last thing you want to do is work for a client that's not taking instructions, not listening to you,
Mm-hmm.
talking outside of your conference with them. And I mean, because most folks, when they hire an attorney, the attorney pretty much lets them know that all your statements to the public will go through me or through the firm.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just get out there and start tweeting shit at 5 a.m. without getting it approved by the firm. So my guess is a lot of these folks do not want to work for Trump because, first of all, he does not take advice very well. And it's hard to defend somebody who is, going off on their own tangent. Second issue is that some of these cases, they know it's probably going to be difficult to prove that he's not guilty of them, particularly with these documents down in Mar-a-Lago, him saying that, well, he declassified them and not having any record that he did it. That's going to be difficult. And then the third thing is obviously the rumors that surround him that he doesn't pay his attorneys. I mean, he has rumors. I don't know if it's true or not, but there are plenty of rumors floating around that he does not pay folks that defend him. So he got like 3 different strikes against him.
No, and not to mention that lawyers that do touch them, their reputations are not the best afterwards. Hence, Rudy. I mean, bless Rudy's
Well,
heart.
yeah, but you would kind of expect that. I mean, if you're a lawyer and you defend people who have been charged with crimes, I mean, you're defending child sex predators, you're defending murderers. I mean, that's going to happen. I mean, folks said all kinds of crazy stuff about Johnny Cochran, but he still made a mint of money off of it. So they don't care about the criticism for defending controversial clients. That's part of the job. It's just that in his case, you want to take clients that you have a chance of winning. You want to take clients that are going to actually pay you back and clients that are going to listen to your instructions. And that's where I think the problem with him is.
Yeah, so it's like, so even if you get talked about and whatnot, if you win that case, that you're on top. And nobody, and so that's the problem, is that they don't see a win with this. It's not going to happen.
I certainly believe in regards to the election in particular. I mean, because Trump has done quite a bit on his own with attorneys already to prove that he won the election, and they've come up short on that over a period of a couple of years now. So the January 6th issue is in regards to the whole election deal. So I could certainly see problems with that. Call me. What was the other one? I just need 11,000 votes. I mean, that's on a recorded phone call. That's on a recorded phone call. That won't be very difficult to prove or disprove. And the one up in New York where they're suggesting that he was evaluating and devaluating properties, that should also be pretty easy to prove or disprove. So, I mean, we'll see. And that's not even bringing up the January 6th hearings in the Mar-a-Lago documents, but once again with the documents. He stated they were declassified. They're saying they're classified. That also should be pretty easy to prove or disprove.
I agree. And also, real quick before I go, I think it's really sad that I see people of color defending or reaching so hard. Like, not even people of color, even just everybody who knows in the face of you are wrong, will not just let it go. Will not just be like, you know what, I'm right. I'm wrong, or however they say it. Just to be able to admit and be humble about it. It's just, it's deafening that guy that was on here. I was like, bruh.
Well, I mean, they say leadership starts at the top, and President Trump himself has a problem admitting when he's wrong. So it shouldn't surprise you that folks that are riding with him may have the same type of mindset, because Trump himself has a hard time admitting when he's wrong. So, I don't think he'll ever, obviously he'll go to the grave not conceding the 2020 election. And my guess is if he does run in 2024 and he comes up short, he probably won't concede that one either. He'll say that one was some type of ploy, or the Republicans had it in for him or something like that. So my guess is you would probably never get a concession speech out of Trump.
But why do you think that there are so many, in specifically black men, that tend to lean that way? More, not Republican, I'm talking about the more MAGA type Republicans. I'm seeing more and more of them going that way. What do you think is the psychology in that? Like,
Well, Biden is not that exciting of a character. Let's just be honest. I
oh
mean,
yeah, for
Biden got a
sure.
lot of racially suspicious comments in his past as well. So
Mhm.
it's not like Trump is running against Obama or somebody like that. There's no enthusiasm for Biden. So I could certainly
Mhm.
see folks not necessarily rushing to President Biden, but at the same time, also there are other issues where African Americans do not have the same plight. Like Candace Owens, for instance, she's not going to be stopped and frisked, or she's not worried about police
Mhm.
harassment. Certainly not
Mhm.
the African Americans that are over 50, like Larry Elders. Nobody's going to stop and frisk him, or Ben Carlson.
Mhm.
So a lot of the
Yeah.
issues that resonate with African Americans, like police reform or
Mhm.
$15 an hour minimum wage and stuff like that. A lot of black conservatives are above that stuff where it's not a big issue to them. So they're going to pay more attention to
Mhm.
tax cuts and the economy and things where Trump actually does look better. So I can
Yeah.
see where you will have some, but it'll never be 50%. The black vote, at least in our lifetime, in my opinion, probably will always remain Democrat. Certainly when they're doing things like trying to roll back Juneteenth, you got
Oh
Republicans that
God,
are
are
actually trying to, yeah, in Florida,
they?
they're trying to
Oh
actually get rid
no.
of the Juneteenth holiday. Why is that? Trump
Why?
obviously, yeah, the Trump administration obviously stopped Harriet Tubman from being on the $20 bill. I mean, these
That's
are
right.
yeah, these are
Mm.
low level things, but I mean, when you
Yeah.
do enough of it, it does add up.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main legacy I know for Trump is, well, for me, or I'm hoping that the long term will be that presidents can get it too. That pretty much is what we should all get from this. They
But
are not, they, because before, like I saw someone say before, they'd be like, oh, if the FBI or the attorney or whatever, attorney general or whoever it is, if they would go, hey, you're not supposed to do that, Mr. President, the president would, back off because, it's bad
right.
decorum. Yeah, but it wasn't
He
like,
would actually listen to it. Yeah, he would actually listen
yeah,
to his advisors. Trump is a new breed. He doesn't
yes.
listen to advisors very well.
So now they're going to have to redo, the way that they see the president. You can't just expect them to actually, because he's the type of person that was like, or what, don't say this or what. Well, we really had never gotten that far before, Mr. President, but we just know you. No one else has ever done that, and so he's like, well, that's what they voted me in for.
Right.
So, fuck your
Yeah.
feelings.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
All
he's
right.
a
Well,
little
that's all I had.
yeah, he's a little different. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming through, Shantae. Always a
All
good
right.
talk.
Have a good night.
You too. You too. Absolutely a pleasure. All right, folks.
Hey.
Listen, looking in the comments real quick. Black Americans are jumping ship voting Republican, says Wire. Well, kind of reminds me of the walkaway movement. Remember for the 2020 election, blacks were going to walk away from the Democratic Party and vote Republican. How did that really turn out? Now, Trump actually did get more African American votes, I believe, than any other president, but it's still nowhere near 50%. Nowhere near 50%. So and when you say that blacks are walking away or jumping ship and voting Republican, I don't know about that. I think that Biden is not necessarily the best candidate. If if the Democrats put up a decent candidate, they're not going to walk away and jump ship for Trump. It's just not going to happen. I mean, I've pointed it out. In my opinion, there are too many folks who are openly intolerant of minorities hanging around Trump gatherings and rallies and not being turned away. Not to say that Trump himself supports it, but he certainly is not denying it. Confederate flags are flying everywhere. You got a guy on the January 6th protest wearing a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt. Even the white people should have sent him home. That's about as bad as you can be. I mean, you're talking about a place that was literally designed to turn Jewish people into ash. And he's walking around with a t-shirt on, promoting this place, and no one's asking him to leave. No one. So that you realize you don't need but one dude
doing something like that. You realize how bad that looks? Just one dude wearing a shirt like that. Nobody's asking him to leave. I bet if you had showed up with a Black Lives Matter shirt on at the January 6th protest, they would have spotted you real quick. Camp Auschwitz. Wow. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is regardless of where you think the Republicans stand, if you think they love blacks or you think they're intolerant, you got to get that shit away from your gatherings. You just got to get that shit. Bringing up Black Lives Matter or bringing up anything on the other side as a deflection, maybe it's a point, maybe not, but that doesn't take away from the fact that that's hanging around MAGA gatherings. Got to get rid of that. MAGA has nothing to do with the Civil War. Why is the Confederate flag flying all over the damn place? That's 200 years ago. Why is that flying around at the Trump rallies? Got to get rid of that stuff if you want people to stop branding this party as being intolerant. Those symbols have nothing to do with making America great, a good economy, or any of that. It's just controversial symbols, some would argue, of hate. And as long as you keep having no problem, it would be a good example of that would be watching Black Lives Matter walking down the street with another group that's chanting for the killing of cops. Well, you're going to brand the whole group being down with that. If you're willing to walk with them while they're chanting all of these hateful slogans toward police and you're not separating yourself from them, then we assume you're for it too. Well, that's what we see when you got folks like that walking around your gatherings and intermingling with the people. And they're showing up at all of your rallies. Even the guy in the Capitol building is walking around with a huge stars and bars. What the hell does a protester get up early for work just like everybody else? You always get to speak your point here. No ban, no block, no censor. Till tomorrow, folks. You stay safe. Catch you later.